issues. And oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Welcome to Thursday. I am back in the studio, and it is Thankful Thursday. We got a sound effect for that one. Hit it, man.
You got to be more thankful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
We thank you so much for this bountiful harvest of Domino's, KFC, and the always delicious Taco Bell.
Have you said thank you once?
Thank you.
Thankful Thursday. It is indeed. I'm thankful to be back. I'm thankful to be in studio. I'm thankful to be with all of y'all. I'm thankful that JP's on the board. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm thankful that you're thankful, and I'm thankful for you.
Well, I appreciate that. Now that we're all thankful, yay, it's Thursday. All right, hey, we got a great show laid on for you. Don't forget it's Thursday, so part of the Thursday routines is, we do some Butters and Lee coming up halfway through hour number 2, so we'll get those two compadres on here. Butters and Lee halfway through hour number 2, and then I got a triple dipper just filled up with stuff, so hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, don't mess with Texas. Yeah, baby. Yeah, so Texas, the Texas House, they roped their Democrats and got them back in the corral, and then they passed the new redistricting plan. It's headed to the Senate. There's a lot of ancillary stories on this. There's a lot of doings going on, and there's a lot of angst. And listen, this has been something more to watch, I tell you what. But we're going to talk about it. Don't mess with Texas. That's number 1 on the Triple Dipper. Number 2, off target for Target. Did you hear what happened? The CEO of Target has been told that his days are over. They're getting a new one. Why is that? Are we in a go woke, go broke mode? I got some thoughts on that, and I may even throw in a little Cracker Barrel with it too, just so you know. That's coming up number 2 on the Triple Dipper, off target for Target. And then number 3, every once in a while I look around and see what's going on in the world, and I find myself thinking, you know what? I got to go ahead and talk about what's happening in our own backyard. And that means I'm going to be cooking up a batch of home fries, and I got a big batch of home fries we'll cover. So that's coming up number 3 on the Triple Dipper, home fries. All right, let me jump on into today's Rightside Way opening monologue, and I'll just remind you guys, as always, Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. He's a 30-year vet in the practice of law, and yes, indeed, Stan McDonald is the sponsor daily of the Rightside Way monologue. I'll tell you more about Stan here momentarily. All right, so let me just jump in and say one of the big news stories of the day, obviously, has been the effort by the Trump administration to negotiate an end to the war in Ukraine. And it's a valiant effort. And I don't believe that any other world leader could make it happen. But the fact that we're here at all right now is incredible. I mean, there are some who believe the war would be over in days. And as time passed by, there are those who believed it might never end. But something that must be addressed, though, are the reasons why it started. And no, I don't mean all of the geopolitical premises. I don't mean the cultural and historical tensions between Ukraine and Russia. I don't mean the demographics. I don't mean the economies of Russia and Ukraine. Those are all important. But those were not the straw that broke the camel's back. That proverbial camel's back. Those were longstanding factors, yes. And I submit to you, though, that every war has longstanding factors that steeped over time and simmering below the surface actually pop up sometimes and create the war. But pretty much every war also has a flashpoint that kicks it off. A moment in time that told everyone that the hinge point had been reached. And the war in Ukraine is no different. And the flashpoint I'm talking about, it happened exactly 4 years ago this week. A flashpoint that was actually somewhere else, but it sent shockwaves around the world. I submit to you, hear me when I say it, I submit to you that the flashpoint that gave Putin the clarity he needed to make the final call to cross the line from peace to war was the Biden administration's debacle of a pullout from Afghanistan that occurred 4 years ago this week. That's right, 4 years ago this week was when the airstrip at Kabul airport was overrun by desperate Afghan citizens panicking because Joe Biden was abandoning everything and everyone, and we watched in horror as Afghan men clung to the sides of U.S. Air Force cargo planes and fell to their deaths as they took off. It was shocking. It was awful. It was a sign that the U.S. was, at that point, not a nation operating in strength. We were without care for the fates of other people. And just a few days later, 4 years from next Tuesday, a suicide bomber blew himself up at the Abbey Gate entrance to the Kabul airport and killed 13 U.S. service members and over 100 Afghan citizens. And I'm telling you right now, Putin knew then that the U.S. under Joe Biden would never say a word if he launched his attack. And within 2 months, Putin began massing his troops and posturing for war. Afghanistan was the flashpoint that launched the war in Ukraine, in my opinion. But let's talk about flashpoints because, yeah, flashpoints happen. They do. And how they are handled makes all the difference. In foreign policy, a flashpoint refers to a specific location or situation where tensions between two nations or groups are high and could easily escalate into violence. It's a critical juncture where a seemingly minor or even seemingly unrelated incident could trigger a major crisis or even a war. But to give you an idea of what it's like to deal with a flashpoint moment, we have to talk a little history. We have to tell a few stories. Man, I got a doozy for you today. You see, throughout history, there have been numerous flashpoints, those singular acts or moments in time that have drawn the U.S. into conflict, and some, though, that have been stared down and dealt with effectively. It's a question of leadership. The kickoff to World War I was the single assassination of Serbian Archduke Ferdinand. The entrance of the U.S. to World War I was the singular sinking of the ship Lusitania that killed 128 Americans. The flashpoint for the Spanish-American War in Cuba was the sinking of the USS Maine in Havana Harbor. The flashpoint for the global war on terror was 9/11. Those all kicked into war. But are there times, though, where a flashpoint is mitigated? Where a crisis is handled without it escalating fully? Yes, there are. Everyone remembers the Cuban Missile Crisis, when the world stood on the brink of the Cold War going very hot, as the Soviet Union decided it wanted to put nuclear missiles a stone's throw away off our southern shores in Cuba. President Kennedy stared down that situation firmly, with resolve. Had he blinked, had Kennedy equivocated, had he tried to appease the Soviets for even 1 second, we would have seen enough nuclear material on our border to wipe half of America off the map within a minute of launch. But one of the craziest moments that showed how dangerous and treacherous international policy and brinksmanship can be is one that the world has pretty much forgotten. Some call it the Battle of the Poplar Tree, and it happened near the DMZ between North and South Korea. It's a story that I got to tell you because, interestingly enough, the anniversary of the flashpoint that I'm about to tell you is also this week. You see, 49 years ago this week, to be exact, the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea was a hotspot. The DMZ between North and South Korea, also known as a no man's land, it's a buffer between two countries who hate each other. South Korea and the United States on one side guard the DMZ with North Korea on the other side, and we have done so since the ceasefire from the Korean War. Keep in mind, by the way, there was never actually an official end to that war, just an armistice. But what I'm about to describe to you, though, is what took place in what is known as the Joint Security Area, where both U.S. and South Korean troops can both be there and have a presence. It's kind of like that spot where both sides can meet. You've seen pictures of President Trump meeting there with Kim Jong-un. But on August 18th of 1976, Captain Arthur Art Boniface, a 33-year-old U.S. Army airborne ranger and Vietnam veteran, was leading a routine mission to trim a tree that was blocking our view from observation points in the DMZ, and things went horribly wrong. He was on-the-ground commander of a joint security force, and Boniface and his men were confronted by approximately 15 North Korean troops led by a guy named Pak Chul. Pak Chul was nicknamed Lieutenant Bulldog because he had been constantly in frequent confrontations with the Americans. After a few tense minutes of attempted intimidation and posturing, the North Korean officer approached Captain Boniface and demanded that the U.S. soldiers stop trimming down the tree because it had allegedly been, quote, personally planted and nourished by Kim Il-sung, which is a joke, but he probably believed it. Boniface was unfazed by the arrogant North Korean officer. He turned away and began ordering his men to continue their work trimming the tree. Moments later, a truck with 20 additional North Korean soldiers showed up, all of them carrying crowbars, steel pipes, clubs. And what happened next would shock and enrage Americans, South Koreans, and freedom-loving people all over the world. It became a massive flashpoint. It could have gone to war. According to eyewitnesses, Lieutenant Pak calmly took off his watch, wrapped it in a handkerchief, put it in his pocket, and then yelled, "Kill them!" And instantly, the North Korean soldiers, under direct orders from that lieutenant, began beating and hacking the American and North Korean and South Korean soldiers near the tree. In the next 30 seconds or so, Captain Boniface, who was actually scheduled to leave Korea the following week to be reunited with his wife and 3 children, and a First Lieutenant Mark Barrett, a 25-year-old Jacksonville, Florida native who had recently married, were both bludgeoned to death. U.S. forces in Korea immediately went to DEFCON 3. Within hours of the brutal murders, the North Korean government issued the following statement. They said, quote, "At 10:45 a.m. today, the American imperialist aggressors sent 14 hoodlums with axes to the joint security area, and they attacked our guards en masse, committed a serious provocative act of beating our men and wielding murderous weapons." Please. 2 days later, the bodies of Captain Boniface and Lieutenant Barrett were escorted to Kimpo Airport outside of Seoul and flown to the United States, where both men were buried with full military honors. On August 21st, the United States, in a plan that was promoted and authorized by none other than President Gerald Ford himself, launched what became known as Operation Paul Bunyan. JP is going to put a picture up on the screen right now. Operation Paul Bunyan. Yep, the Allies sent 23 American and South Korean vehicles filled with soldiers and a 64-man task force of South Korean special forces right to the site of the incident. They had U.S. Army Cobra attack helicopters on the horizon, B-52 bombers and F-4 Phantoms flying overhead. The USS Midway task force was streaming offshore, and the Americans cut down that whole daggum tree. Approximately 200 North Korean soldiers rushed into the area, began setting up machine gun positions. They had locked and loaded rifles and machine guns, and the North Koreans watched the 40-minute tree cutting in complete silence. Miraculously, they never fired a shot. Kim Il-sung had actually backed down because an American president had the chutzpah to stare him down. Several hours later, the North Korean leadership issued what has been known as the closest thing to a formal apology they've ever issued. They called it a formal regret. President Ford, though, he knew at the time that America was jaded because we had just left Vietnam the year before. But he also knew that flashpoints happen, and you cannot stand there and just do nothing about them. So he faced it head on. Yes, flashpoints happen. The world's a crazy place sometimes, and it's filled up with things that most of us never even know about. At any given time, a madman, an assassin, a crisis, a pandemic can arise and set everything on edge, and sometimes those moments are the flashpoint in a geographical area or in the middle of a competing interest or a historical grievance. What matters most, though, to decide whether it's a flashpoint for peace or war is leadership. Real leadership, the kind that can be tested, then proven worthy for such a time as that. That's why elections matter. That's why who we put in office matters, because flashpoints happen, but leadership can actually keep it in check. 2 major flashpoints. One that Biden caused launched the war in Ukraine, in my opinion, 4 years ago this week. The other, North Korean provocations on the DMZ against U.S. troops that resulted in 2 deaths that almost went to war, but another American president stood it down. Not only that, he made symbolic gestures to show that we will never allow that to happen again. Flashpoints, they happen. Leadership, it matters. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Yeah, I saw that both of those came, the anniversaries were this week, and it really just struck me. There's a story there. And then it dawned on me, the whole flashpoint correlation. And I thought, well, there it is. I've got 2 anniversaries in 1 week of major military events on geopolitical positions. And yeah, one of them led to a war. The other one almost did, but it was stood down. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Good evening. I'm Abby Phillip in New York. Let's get right to what America is talking about. The Takeover show hits Washington, D.C. And in tonight's episode, hundreds of National Guard members from all over the country are now stationed all across the city. Troops are watching neighborhoods and military vehicles are patrolling the streets. And today's episode also featured an all-star cast. J.D. Vance, the vice president, Stephen Miller, a top White House aide, and Pete Hegseth, the Department of Defense secretary. They were met with a not so warm welcome by D.C. residents at Union Station. The chorus of protesters briefly drowned out their media moment, but they didn't seem fazed by it. They posed for pictures and took the troops out for burgers and had this to say about their fellow Americans.
I think you hear these guys outside here screaming at us. Of course, these are a bunch of crazy protesters.
So we're going to ignore these stupid white hippies that all need to go home and take a nap because they're all over 90 years old.
Now, today's visit illustrates a stark divide between the Trump administration and D.C. residents. As city crime stats show that violence is declining, Trump has said that those numbers are fake. And new polling also now shows roughly 8 in 10 oppose Trump's takeover. But Vance, like his boss, is not believing that data either.
I'm highly skeptical that a majority of D.C. residents don't want their city to have better public safety and more reasonable safety standards within Washington, D.C.
So now it doesn't matter, Scott Jennings, that voters are not happy with what Trump's doing, don't feel safer, all of that.
I don't care what they think. I mean, these are the same people who elected the mayor and city council that ran the city's public safety into the ground in the first place.
You don't care what the residents...
They don't know what's good for them.
You don't care what the residents of D.C. think.
I do not. I do not care one bit, and I'll tell you something else.
I feel like I do remember just a couple weeks ago you were saying, well, secretly D.C. residents really want this because they know the crime is so bad.
I don't
now
know what
we actually have the numbers that
need.
say, will Trump's federal takeover reduce violent crime? 65% say no, just 20% say yes. Do you feel like the presence of federal officers makes you feel safer, more safe, 18%, less safe, 61%?
Why would they say that? They're out arresting criminals. They're arresting illegal aliens. They're getting illegal guns off the streets. An MS-13 illegal alien was taken out off the streets the other night. They're obviously safer. But, you know, there's another population that cares about public safety in D.C. It's all the people who visit there. We have people that go there, millions of people from all over the country. They deserve to go to a national capital that's not in disgrace and despair, and that's what they're doing in Washington. So I don't really care about what they think, truthfully.
Let me let Valencia, because she actually lives in D.C. Well, in the D.C. area. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, listen, I live in the DMV area. I am from the area, and listen, you can talk about the numbers that you all have reported on, that crime has come down over the years. And yes, there are people who have felt individual instances. But the bigger issue that a lot of folks are talking about in D.C. is this over-policing of black communities, black and brown communities. And we're seeing this as part of a bigger picture of what the Trump administration is doing across the country. And so it's actually not making people feel safer. There are a lot of people who are staying home. The restaurants are feeling it, and people are really concerned. And so I actually disagree with the statement that people don't know what they need when the city has actually come together and started voting people in office to help bring crime down.
Let's talk about legally. So the Home Rule Act of 1973 gave the president the authority to have rule over the National Guard in D.C. There's also a section in there, Section 740, that allowed him and gave him authority over the police department in D.C. if he declares an emergency. He, in fact, on August 11th, declared an emergency. So legally, he has the ability to do this. So how do we address, everybody wants to be safer and feel safer. How do we address that point, but also address the point that you brought up where certain people are being targeted? I think this is a situation where we have to hope that the people that are deployed there understand that it's on them to make sure that they police fairly, that they treat people fairly, because the general at the top may have an idea of why he wants people to be there, but we have to, in an effort to bring crime down, say these National Guards that are legally deployed there treat people fairly. You're supposed to be there as a deterrent. You shouldn't be making arrests. They don't really have the authority to do that. They don't have the authority to police the streets. That's not what the National Guard does. So stay hands off, act as a deterrent. If the numbers come down, that's better for everybody, if the streets are safer, but do it in a manner that you're not targeting people.
I got to jump in on this, though. I've got 30 years of military service. A lot of that was in the National Guard. I have been activated for civil disturbance before. And the training that the Guard guys get is designed to actually put them on the streets with minimum show of force, use of force. They And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just like saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, so I got to tell you about Stan McDonald. Yes, indeed. Attorney Stan McDonald, a partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee up in Huntsville. Stan McDonald, 30-year veteran in the practice of law. He is not only, by the way, a good attorney, which I am just proud to say I know for a fact he is. He's a friend of mine. But Stan McDonald is also an absolute warrior in the trenches for years on all the conservative policies and politics that right side ruffians care about. So there's that. But yeah, Attorney Stan McDonald is also, by the way, represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He can stand up for you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say, if Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So indeed, if you need an attorney, I'm going to tell you how to reach him. Stan McDonald, here's his phone number. You ready? Stan McDonald, the law firm is Wilmer and Lee. The number is 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. And tell him y'all heard about it on Rightside Radio. And no representation is made that I would ever advertise a bad lawyer. There's my simplest. Back in studio. Good to be with you guys. The connectivity was good last night, though. JP, congrats to you. I'm thankful, JP, on Thankful Thursday. I'm thankful that you understand all the buttons you push and the things you do that makes things like that work.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for saying thank you.
Thank you for willing to land from your flight and then do the show.
I am just like skating in here on two wheels, but it worked. We're here. I was about to say something. What I was going to say? Oh, it's text lines. Thank you. Text lines are open. 83. What day is this? This is Thursday. It's Thankful Thursday.
It is Thankful Thursday.
What time is it? Okay, I got you.
It's Thankful Someday.
We're on the air. Where am I right now? All right. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. You can text it. You can call it. We'll do both. David at Bucky's. David says, Phil, another great monologue. Thank you, sir. He said, I come not to expect anything. Well, thank you for that. Anything less. He says, but Biden did say something to Putin. He said, don't. I remember. And I remember the incident in Korea very well. I firmly believe that not many leaders would have responded as President Ford did if he hadn't. No telling where we'd be right now. I agree. I mean, Kennedy stared down the Cuban Missile Crisis. If he hadn't, we'd still have nuclear missiles off our southern, because once they got there, they weren't going away.
By the way, David Bucky's also commented on the YouTube, said he was actually stationed in Korea in 74 to 75 and 78 to 79. So I guess it'd be around that time period.
He bracketed it. Yeah, the event occurred in 76, but he understands the tension, certainly. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Again, David, thanks for your service. Allie from Athens says, I had never heard about the Battle of the Tree. Colonel, he said, and it never occurred to me that Biden's debacle so emboldened Putin to invade. Thank you for connecting the dots, and the only appropriate response to the recent set of reprieves that we have been given due to bold leadership is glory to God. Amen. Allie, amen to you, and thank you very much. I got more text. I got more stuff. We'll talk about it. We also have some breaking news. I'll tell you about that too. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. How to do, and they are fully supervised in what they do. And I feel very confident that the people they're targeting are not of a certain demographic, they're not of a certain skin color. What they're targeting is criminals. That's exactly what they are there right now to provide a deterrent. And the police force is absolutely in favor of this. The police union is ecstatic over this. And if you look at it, Mayor Bowser herself is really not resisting this. In fact, I think she welcomes it.
But I think, let me ask you a question, because you mentioned your National Guard service. Yeah. I mean, what you're talking about is a civil disturbance. I think what Trump is suggesting that the National Guard is doing is policing. Those are not the same thing as far as what you just described. Certainly you seem to say, you seem to say that they have a hands-off approach. That's different from what policing looks like.
I didn't say hands-off. I said well-trained.
Well, no, they're not trained.
They are absolutely trained. In fact, every one of those guardsmen that got there, every one of them, no matter what state they came from, every one of them has a pre-deployment training they have to go through. I guarantee you.
To do what?
To get on the streets and to know exactly how to do crowd control, to know exactly how to do roadside stops, to know exactly how to do augmentation of services for the police force.
Yeah, but these are not. There's no. I mean, I guess
they're not out there. They're not some hackneyed, jackbooted group out there running streets.
I don't think anybody's suggesting that. I'm just saying we've seen the National Guard being used when there are actual civil disturbances. In 2020, we've seen them at a lot of these moments when there have been mass uprisings or protests, and we've seen them in action there. What's happening in D.C. is that this is a normal city where people are going about their lives every day, and the National Guard troops what they're trying to do, have them do what police are supposed to do, which is to proactively police and patrol cities, which is different from what you're talking about.
It's not.
Here are the facts. When you ask the residents that Trump is claiming to help, they say that they oppose it at a 79% rate. 61% of them feel less safe. When you ask them what they care about the most, it's not homicides, it's not carjackings, it's Trump's occupation of D.C. So the question then becomes, who are we helping here? Who are we helping here? The idea that public policy isn't meant to serve the public in D.C. is absolutely absurd when Trump was claiming he was helping the public. So the question that I then want to ask is, why don't we mobilize the National Guard to the 8 out of 10 red states that are the highest homicide states? If this decreases crime, and that's sufficient enough to mobilize the National Guard against the explicit will of the people of D.C., why is the National Guard not marching through the streets?
The law, he was already quoted.
I'm not talking about the law. I'm talking about the explicit
we are talking about the law. But the other thing y'all are doing is misreading the poll. I read the poll. The poll said that 50% of the people who had been polled had seen the security. Of those 50%, 61% said they weren't sure they were happy with it. You boil that down, that means roughly 28% of the whole doesn't like it. 28%.
You asked, who is it for?
But I think that, the reason that they ask if you have seen it is because they want to ask people who have actually interacted with the issue, as opposed to just people who have no idea that it's happening. So that's one way to kind of get to that. But one thing, because what Adam just said was something that we asked here at the table yesterday. Why not address violence in all these other parts of the country?
Not enough Democrats.
Why, I'm not saying that President Trump should do it, but all these red state governors have the ability to mobilize their National Guards within their own states. Why aren't they doing it?
Right now, I don't think they feel the need to. But right
even
now,
though
the
the
Home Rule
violence
Act,
levels are higher in some of those
states don't
than
have
they
a
are in
Home Rule
DC.
Act, but they do have a governor.
No, but they have a governor and they have a National Guard that's under the control of the government.
We're talking about D.C.
They
right
can
now.
deploy that at
But their cities have more
Do
crime
you
than
not see
Washington,
the difference
DC?
between our national capital and every other city?
You're saying that the National Guard is
no
a
one's
defeater
saying
of
that.
crime, but then you refuse to endorse the National Guard being put in other states. You're going to say the National Guard is lower
I'm
crime
arguing
rates.
that the national capital, Washington, D.C., exists in a different federal zone, as was pointed out.
Yeah, but that is only
it's our national
as it relates
capital.
to
I'm sorry,
Hold
it
on,
is different
Scott.
than Memphis
It
or
is
whatever.
only as it relates to Donald Trump's role in this whole thing. The president's, that's what I'm saying. When it comes to the rest of the country, governors have the I'll let you get it. Governors have the authority to do what Trump is doing, and they are not doing it.
So let me tell you what the difference is. The difference here is Donald Trump. Donald Trump has decided he wants to do this for show. And that's why my plea isn't to Donald Trump, because he has the authority to do this. There's no way that you can stop him from deploying the National Guard in D.C. because he has the legal ability to do it. It hasn't happened where the National Guard was deployed in many places other than the Detroit riots or when MLK was shot.
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Man, covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This show. I mean, it goes like from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that lovely little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call now, once again, Fort Benning. Benning, home of the airborne. Benning. And then, oh, by the way, big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. And then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web, live streaming the show every day. Live streaming, looking right in the studio right now. Places like X, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then you podcasters, y'all who catch it after the fact, it doesn't matter to us where you catch this show. The fact is you do. And that means the world to us. Thank you for being a part of our lives every single day. You're the reason why we do it. So there's that. Text lines again, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Two of our regular texters, John from Huntsville says, Phil, spectacular monologue. Thank you. Definitely one of your best. Thank you again. And did you hear that Russian missiles hit American electronic factory in Ukraine? By the way, JP, college football 2 days away. He runs the gamut, doesn't he, in those text messages?
He does, and it's really hard to believe. Like, it feels...
Whose first game of the season?
It's played in Ireland, and I actually don't know off the top of my head. Yeah, they're doing this thing of the first game of the year being played in Dublin. It's Kansas State and Iowa State this year.
Okay.
So
So the first game is actually on foreign soil, but it's the first game.
Yeah, and it's actually like maybe the only Power 5 game, I think. So it's week 0, but real football, I think, across the board starts the week after this one. So
cool. Jeff from Indiana says, "Hey Phil, with all those frequent flyer miles, do you get to keep those?" Listen, brother, I don't even know how to do that stuff, but I'm gonna start figuring something out if this keeps up. All right, listen, we got some breaking news I got to tell you about. So 2 things. One, John just touched on one of them. And I'm still getting my head around it because I was on a plane for most of the morning. I've not had a chance to see the most recent news except just to kind of catch it quickly. 2 stories, though, that are on top of the breaking news right now is that Russia has launched another missile volley, some 614 drones, ballistic cruise missiles, and cruise missiles across Ukraine. Which, by the way, I got to say, not that this is to minimize the fact that somebody died. But if you're going to launch 614 drones, ballistic missiles, and cruise missiles, you would think they would do more than kill one. One person died. But in the course of it, they also destroyed an American-owned electronics company. And I don't know, in today's day and age of targeted weapon systems, of precision-guided munitions, is that an accident that they hit an American-made factory, or was that just trying to send a signal that we will not be forced into something we don't want to be a part of in terms of the peace agreements? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that right now.
I wasn't even aware of that part of the story till now either.
Yeah.
But I mean, the reality is like both sides are like, I think the night before Trump and Putin summit, like Ukraine launched a massive drone attack the night before. So like both sides are doing it. And it's part of why I'm pessimistic of like Putin's waiting his time. He has no reason to stop doing what he's doing. And Ukraine also has some demands I don't think would be agreed to by Putin. I'm just extremely pessimistic that this is going to stop anytime soon.
You know what? Anytime soon. But you know what the interesting thing is? I don't think Russia can win. And in terms of what they set out to do, which is take over Ukraine and then be able to consider whether they wanted the Baltics or Poland, I don't think they can do it. I mean, I think they've proven that if Ukraine is given an opportunity to stay in the fight, I don't think Russia can do it. And I don't think at this point Western Europe's going to let them do it. And so I'm wondering what Putin thinks his end game is. And I know we're getting off on a tangent, but I look at this and go, what is his plan? Is his plan just to try and like fight the war of attrition and lose another million people so that he can stay exactly where he is in the Donbass region and that's it? Call it done?
I think that's his plan. I think he knows he has more people he can put through the meat grinder, and eventually the war of attrition will come to a point where I think in his eyes he's hoping that Ukraine will just agree to whatever he says because they just don't have any more people. I think that's his end game, which is why I'm pessimistic. But anyways,
I wonder too, and this is it's a legit question. How much of what we're dealing with is Putin himself? And if Putin was taken out or if he died, because there's been questions of his health. He looked pretty healthy the other day, but there was some discussion about whether he had cancer like a year or two ago.
I think he has Parkinson's too, doesn't he?
I don't know.
Yeah, I heard rumors of that as well.
It's all rumor because they're so closed off on that kind of stuff, but they're not a very transparent society. But the reality is we're in a situation right now where I wonder if Putin was gone, would the remainder of the leadership go, whew, okay, can we find peace now, please? Or would the remainder of the leadership go, we will carry on in the name of our dear leader? I don't know.
Well, his aide, or his name, the foreign minister, Medvedev showed up in a USSR sweatshirt to the meeting. So like that, we're not going to get anybody that's going to be pro-Western out of Russia. So I
didn't say pro-Western. I just said anti-war.
Well, yeah, I agree. But I think some people think that if Putin was gone, it'd be, yay, Russia's good. Like it may actually be worse. It depends on who gets in there. So,
Russia is not in the modern era. Russia's not batting 1,000 on war. Their war in Afghanistan was a 10-year war of attrition, and they finally just pulled out and left. I mean, I guess people could say the same thing about us, but that was Joe Biden at the helm too, which I think we would have left anyway. But we would have left different.
Yeah, that's what's funny about when people say, well, Trump started the process of leaving. It was like, yeah, and that process wasn't leave all of our equipment and just leave cold, like just
abandon U.S. citizens.
Yeah, it's like that's such a dumb art. Like there's a process.
4 years ago this week. 4 years ago this week. Okay, the other piece of breaking news, got to get to it real quick before I run out of time. The other piece of breaking news right now, which I think is hilarious, and it may involve a sound effect. You choose your sound effect over there, man. But a appeals court has just, the whole Letitia James, where she got Mar-a-Lago, basically devalued and claimed that Trump had committed fraud and got a $500 million fraud penalty against him. The appeals court just threw out the entire penalty. Just so. Are you just running the buffet of numbers over there?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, that happened just today. If you haven't already heard it, New York appeals court threw out the $500 million penalty against Trump in the Letitia James civil case. Remember, we had two of them. We had the Alvin Bragg criminal case. That's the one the Democrats like to say, he's a convicted felon. Oh, stop it. It's silly. They were misdemeanors until you tied them, artworked them together with a federal election campaign issue. And oh, by the way, it wasn't 34 separate felonies. There were 34 checks that were written that they took issue with, and he counted each one as a separate felony. That being said, Letitia James was the other one. She's the New York AG who campaigned on the idea of, I'll get Trump. Well, she went and got Trump, and the appellate court threw out the $500 million civil fraud penalty against him. Didn't throw out the whole case, but just threw out the penalty and said that it was excessive, and it did not match the allegations for which he was tried. And, the 5-member panel all upheld the findings that Trump and his company, may be liable. We don't know yet, but that there was absolutely no way in the world to justify a penalty of $500 million.
Yeah, she put up a statement kind of doing a little bit of a victory lap for something. She said basically that they affirmed the well-supported finding of the trial court that Donald Trump and his children were found liable. And we're pretty much saying, like, I don't know, that's weird. Like, to take a victory lap over, I don't know. I guess I don't understand exactly what they wrote upon, but that statement's kind of weird and bizarre in my opinion.
What she's really trying to do is try to find the silver lining.
Yes,
she's embarrassed right now. She also, by the way, let's not forget too, Letitia James may have what the law often refers to as unclean hands. And she has been discovered to be someone who may have committed loan fraud, much like Adam Schiff, who, by the way, is also dealing with potential loan fraud. So we'll see what happens to that. Penny from Athens, like on the show Modern Family, what's the plan, Phil? Or in this case, what's the plan, Putin? I don't know. I think his plan is try and ride it out. Try to see if the Democrats can get elected in a few years, and he's still at war, and they get the checkbook turned back on just to keep the fight going. Who knows? Darlene from Decatur says, "I'm so very thankful for your program on this Thankful Thursday." Thank you, I appreciate that. And said, "I'm especially thankful for you, Phil and JP. I'm impressed with how quote with it JP is for his young age. You two make the perfect team. You're so comfortable with each other and real. You both have the perfect values and attitudes for each and every topic you deal with. I hope you both keep doing what you're doing for as long as possible. In gratitude for y'all, Darlene from Decatur." Wow.
Thank you, Darlene.
Wow. Darlene, we're thankful for you.
We are thankful for you indeed.
I am taken aback. Matt from Madison says, "I've been married and divorced twice. I know lying and manipulation when I see it. It's time to hit hard with sanctions or get divorced from Putin." Wow. That was called transference, by the way. Taking one issue and putting it onto the other. A little bit of conflation. But I get your point, though, Matt. And I hope your life is well and happy. All right, listen, we're going to take a break. We're going to come right back. In a minute, I'm going to jump on in with both feet, y'all. Jump on in with both feet. Don't mess with Texas. What did we just see done? Well, we just saw what's legal get done. We'll talk about it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Extreme situations, desegregation of schools. Donald Trump decided to do this. He has the authority. That's why my plea is to those being deployed to say, please do it respectfully and don't target particular
I want to make one note. I'm going to play a little bit more of Stephen Miller, and we'll talk about it on the other side. Listen.
Voices that you hear out there, those crazy communists, they have no roots. These demonstrators that you've seen out here in recent days, all of these elderly white hippies, they're not part of this city and never have been. And by the way, most of the citizens who live in Washington, D.C. are black. This is not a city that has had any safety for its black citizens for generations. And President Trump is the one who is fixing that.
There's a lot going on there, including that I'm not sure when last Stephen Miller talked to the black residents of Washington, D.C. But I also just have to note, he's deriding elderly white hippies. Now, if someone said that, any one of us at the table, we would be accused of racism. Why is it okay for him to say that about Americans?
Because Trump set the standard. That's the problem. That's the bottom line. Trump set the standard about how you can talk about people and what you can say, and these people feel it's okay now to voice that.
But just to be clear, he's calling American citizens who we can see them with our eyes ourselves, not elderly. They're DC. They're people from DC. He's calling them crazy, elderly, white hippies. He's said that multiple times. Why is that okay? But if someone else were to say that, you would be accused of being racist by Stephen Miller, frankly.
I'm not sure I'm following your line of thought here. I mean, the fact is some of them are elderly, and some of them are protesting the administration. I mean, I don't.
Because
some are hippies.
because they're white, they're not allowed to protest.
No, it's not what he's saying at all. But
well, then why did he say that?
Why is he saying what's
he's having a good time poking fun at the people who are making
I guess I'm just saying. Listen, I'm old enough to remember baskets of deplorables, okay?
Right.
I cannot imagine that it would be okay for any Democratic politician to say these crazy white Trump. I mean, Republicans.
They say that all the time.
Yeah, but exactly.
and you all have a fit about it.
By the way,
no one is upset with
you criticize them for it all the time. Why is it okay for him to say that?
I mean, I don't care what they say.
But they
say it all the time. You're acting like this is new.
I would say I appreciate the truthfulness of that you don't care what Stephen Miller says, because at the end of the day, what he is doing is something that if on the other side of the aisle was said about your voters, MAGA voters, you would be up in arms about it.
MAGA voters. Okay, so MAGA voters. I tell you, the
not to describe you as a MAGA voter, but I'm saying your side of that.
On the basket of the
they call us Nazis.
We actually embrace the deplorables. We made hats out of it. Y'all are welcome to make a white hippie hat if you want to and embrace it, but I doubt you won't, because the left is constantly getting offended.
Okay.
And this is a nothing burden.
Last point, Alessia, and I'm curious about your view of this. Look, it's common in politics to talk about black voters without ever talking to black voters, and this seems very much to be an example of that. Because they're the ones who are actually on the receiving end. I've seen the videos too in black neighborhoods in DC on the receiving end of this heavy policing.
It's a savior complex, and it's also these white people who actually don't go and talk to black voters and see exactly, or black populations and see exactly what they need. Because I quite frankly believe that communities know the solutions to help themselves out of whatever situation it is. Donald Trump, Stephen Miller have some of the most racist policies ever. And for them to talk about that these policies or bringing the National Guard is to actually make it safer for black communities is actually insulting, because what I know from the black communities that I am part of, that I know people who are native DCs for generations, this is doing nothing but causing even more fear and removing their agency from a city that quite frankly has always prided itself of the diversity and used to call itself Chocolate City.
Let me give Phil. I know Phil wants to respond.
I just wonder if you've seen the level of integration in his administration. I mean, this is not an all-white administration weighing down on the oppressed. This is not that at all.
It's not as diverse as many other administrations.
I take that issue with that.
It's not a savior, but we also do have to acknowledge, and your point is 100% correct. However, if crime can go down, we should be willing to accept that. We have to figure out how to blend those two. If they're going to be there, let's make the most of it.
But we can't make the whole crime. They're making the whole crime issue as if it's only black and brown criminals. That is what they have said, and that's who's being targeted. That is who's being targeted.
What do you mean by that?
Look at
the neighborhoods.
Where's the
Ward
crime?
7, Ward 8. Literally look at that.
The crimes wherever you look for it. Are you telling me that in white neighborhoods there is no crime that doesn't make sense?
Well, first of all,
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. I tell you what, I gotta jump in. This just happened. So in a little bit later on, we're going to have a segment called Off Target for Target. And we're going to talk about what's happening with Target's CEO being fired. And we're going to talk about whether this is a go woke, go broke moment. But the other one that I got to tell you is out there right now is Cracker Barrel. And I don't know how many of y'all have seen the fact that Cracker Barrel is trying to like redo its image. And I'm thinking, why? Has it not been working? Have your shares been slipping? Have your fan base just like gone away from you? I will say that I don't think the quality in their stores has been as good as it used to be. But nonetheless, the culture, the atmosphere of Cracker Barrel, I don't know, maybe I'm old fashioned, but I just saw. So by the way, if you didn't know, what they're doing is they're turning their logo into like almost a plain vanilla logo. It's like, oh, you're putting it up
like a minimalistic.
Yeah, it's like, okay, how benign can we be? So they went from having the Cracker Barrel logo with kind of a sculpted look to the thing that circles the Cracker Barrel words, and the old guy on the chair leaning against a barrel. And now they're making it just like a blank yellow thing that says the words Cracker Barrel on it. Like, well, that, I don't know how much they paid for that, but I'm pretty sure they overpaid. Like, I could have done that on, I don't know, some kind of
stubby pencil.
Yeah, exactly. I could have sketched that out on a piece of paper and told AI to turn it into something. I'm pretty sure that's what they did.
Probably.
It's pretty awful. But I just saw this. Steak and Shake. It's not often that one brand just calls out another.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's almost as if they're piling on and trying to capitalize. It reminds me of the Dylan Mulvaney moment.
I mean, whoever their social media person is, very smart.
Steak and Shake just put up a picture of the logo of Cracker Barrel, the old logo, and says, here's what they say on their official account. Sometimes people want to change things just to put their own personality on things. At Cracker Barrel, their goal is just to delete the personality altogether. Hence the elimination of the old timer from the signage. Heritage is what got Cracker Barrel this far, and now the CEO wants to scrape it all away. At Steak and Shake, we take pride in our history, our families, and American values. All are welcome. We will never market ourselves away from our past in a cheap effort to gain the approval of trend seekers. Wow.
Mic drop.
Wow. That's absolutely a mic drop.
Yeah. And it was one of those things, the Cracker Barrel logo, I probably shouldn't be as upset about, but for some reason it just drives me nuts because I love Cracker Barrel.
Yes.
But I think it's the intention behind it, but also seeing the CEO go, we have got nothing but compliments and everybody's so happy. It's like, okay, I'm sure your like white liberal cat lady friend group was like, that looks great. But like, it's not, but also, I don't know if you've seen the videos of the remodeled Cracker Barrel, some of them. I don't know if they're doing this with all of them, but
that's it.
The white painted walls,
yeah,
no paintings.
The interior is it's like vanilla now. And I remember when Ruby Tuesdays did that. Ruby Tuesdays used to have this kind of dynamic look. They had all these stained glass lights hanging everywhere. And then one day you went in, and everything was like, meh.
I mean, the appeal.
Womp, womp, womp.
I mean, I love Cracker Barrel's food, but the appeal of going to Cracker Barrel is that setting. It's like you're at your grandma's house.
Well, yeah.
It's like yeah.
And you got nostalgia everywhere. So, okay, first of all, I'm glad to hear you say this because you're 22. I'm not.
Yeah,
part of me is like, am I just an old man?
My friends and I loved going to Cracker Barrel in college.
Okay. Well, by God. All right. Fried okra, hash brown casserole. Ooh, that's a hash brown casserole.
I love the meatloaf there.
Meatloaf.
The country fried steak.
Country fried steak with gravy.
Yep. It's great.
Get it in you. Get some green beans. Lord. Get some that cornbread.
Yes. Oh.
Of course, I always get the biscuit with apple butter.
Yes, the apple butter is great.
Shoot, what you talking about, apple butter? Listen, I don't know what they're doing. I think Cracker Barrel may have just hosed it. The only thing I wonder is, can they get back? I don't know. This is my audience will remember this. JP, it's way before you were born. But there was a day when Coca-Cola decided it's time to do away with the formula for Coca-Cola. And we're going to make something, and they called it New Coke.
What, did they take the cocaine out of Coca-Cola?
I don't know what they did. I think that was done a long time ago.
Yeah.
But in the 80s, Coca-Cola decided to go to New Coke. And this is before social media. This is before the internet. But the backlash was still epic. Like, this was a failure the moment it was announced. And then they brought it out anyway. And then it was like really a failure. And then they very quietly sort of came back around and brought the formula back. And then they just like dropped the new Coke altogether. And one day they were on the shelves and the next day they weren't. And I think what happened was Coke realized, oh, that was a really bad idea. Quick, salvage it while we can. I'm curious to see whether Cracker Barrel is going to do a few of these stores and then stop.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if the remodeling part is going to be widespread, but the logo, it's like, what? Like, it's just like shooting yourself in the foot. It's like, why? Like, it would be one thing if it was like an Arby's or like some random chain, but that's like one of the more iconic logos. Like, that is a iconic logo for a reason. It's why? Why would you do that?
It took the dude in the barrel, which some would say, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Some would say if you look at the sign, the logo, they have now removed both the barrel and the cracker.
Yeah. Riley Gaines herself tweeted that. So yeah.
Did she really?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Several text messages. I'll hold my dipper to the top of the hour. So, because it might no reason to start it right yet. So Dorothy from Melkmont says, sanctions on Russia? Like what? Do we need their caviar and vodka? Listen, I think you're looking at a lot of secondary sanctions. We don't import a lot from Russia as a in terms of goods, but the world buys a lot of Russian oil and gas. And what you're going to wind up seeing is secondary sanctions that say we will sanction any nation who buys their oil and gas, and that's going to be a game changer. So that's where I see that going, Dorothy. David from Huntsville says, great to see you on CNN. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Penny from Athens says, wasn't it Biden who said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black? Well, yeah, it was actually. That is racist, but he gets a pass on that one. It's just good to be a Democrat, man. It's just good to be a Democrat. Marshall from Dubai sends us a picture. What do you got here, Marshall? It's a meme of President Trump in full battle rattle and standing on the streets of Washington, D.C. President Trump announced he was going on a ride along in D.C. Not to be outdone, Biden saddled up for his ride along on a hobby horse. Okay, there you go. Nice. Off topic, but thank you very much. Tom with all the kids says, okay, hang on. He had trouble with the voice text. What's he trying to say?
He says that, let me go back.
Okay, last couple of times the wife and I ate at Cracker Barrel. It wasn't so good. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I do know, I think shrinkflation got hold of them, because I'm pretty sure if you don't order 2 rounds of fried okra, you're not going to get the equivalent of 1. All right, we're going to take more text messages and go into Dipper number 1. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
Causing a crime?
There are crimes all over the city.
Absolutely.
But there was an allegation that they weren't even going to look into the wards that had the most violence.
2021.
So you're saying because January 6th happened, we shouldn't catch murderers and carjackers
I'm
today?
not saying that,
That's
but
exactly
I'm saying
what
there
you
wasn't
just
the same energy that there is right now.
The point is, they're looking at crime, whoever and wherever it is.
No, they're targeting black and brown
You
people.
have no evidence.
We got to leave this conversation there. By the way, I just want to say, we actually don't know totally that picture, and that's one of the main things that we need to find out is really what is happening in terms of who is being picked up in this sweep of arrests in Washington, D.C. In the meantime, though, thank you to Dante Mills for joining us. Next for us, did Target's elimination of DEI programs lead to its CEO's ouster? Another special guest is going to join us at the table. Plus, a conservative host goes off on the Trump administration, accusing them of socialism.
My God, people, what have we been fighting for the last decade? You want smaller government? This expands it.
Tonight, abandon woke, go broke. That is how some progressives are describing the sudden announcement that Target CEO is now stepping down. The brand has taken a serious hit since rolling back its DEI efforts back in January. But unlike other companies who did the same thing, Target's commitment to diversity and inclusion programs has been ingrained in the core of its business for many years. And that included a goal to increase its black workforce by 20% after George Floyd's murder, a commitment to add more products from black-owned vendors to stores, and pledging millions of dollars to black Black-led nonprofits. But since its policy change, Target's stock has plummeted nearly 30%, and sales, they have slumped for the third straight quarter. Black Lives Matter, their official X account, noted that Black consumers hold $1.8 trillion in spending power before saying the boycotts will continue. Joining us in our fifth seat is Sheila Kolhatkar. She is a staff writer at The New Yorker, and this is sort of the opposite of the narrative that everybody in corporate America is eager to cave because DEI is bad for business. Clearly, this really upset their customer base, and Target is paying the price for it.
Well, not every DEI program is immediately going to show up in increased profits, but in Target's case, yeah, it was actually a big success. Their program promoting Black-owned small businesses was a huge success. It drew a lot of consumers from new kind of demographic groups into the store. But we're in this environment where a lot of CEOs are bumbling around trying to figure out how to avoid drawing negative attention from this administration. They're not necessarily making business decisions based on what's good for their companies. They're trying to kind of preemptively please the president. And it's not good for business. And we're going to see a lot more stories like this where you have these kind of poorly motivated decisions, political business decisions blowing up, and CEOs resigning as a result.
I think who they're trying to please is the shareholders. I think what you're finally seeing is a shareholder revolt. Companies that are not profitable but have shareholders, they have a fiduciary obligation to their shareholders. If they're not profitable and leadership's in the way of that, you get new leadership. That's the way of the world. Corporate America is just watching their bottom line now, where for several years they were told that ESG and DEI and CRT and everything else that you could virtue signal about was the way of the future. That did not affect their bottom line. And so what we're actually seeing now is a return to actual free market capitalism. And if you're going to watch a company go down the tubes, at some point the shareholders are going to go, stop, we invested, we would prefer you make some better decisions.
Well, I feel like what you're describing is exactly the opposite of what happened to Target, because Target is actually seeing their business decline because they, rather than listening to their customers and making business decisions based on that, they made business decisions based on political backlash. Like, that's actually the opposite of what you're suggesting. And the shareholders are paying the price for that. I mean, when you look at Target's Target stock from January until now, I mean, it has plummeted 28%. Mm-hmm. So most of that time, it is the backlash that is driven by the boycotts.
Yeah, Target turned on one of their huge consumer bases, which is the opposite of what Phil was saying. And it feels like conservatives spent a decade saying, go woke, go broke. Once the wokeness was removed, now Target is immediately going broke. But yeah, again, I think we'll see a lot of CEOs doing the same thing. We just saw U.S. bankruptcies at the highest rate since Trump's last presidency. We see the economy shuddering due to tariffs. We see vegetable prices going up 40%.
Why?
There are a bunch of different...
You know why?
PPI just said that vegetable price going up 40%.
Do you know why? I'm asking if you know why.
Not sure.
Storms, weather, droughts all over the world.
What about electricity prices going up 10%?
It has to be.
Do you know when Liberation Day
I think if you're going to throw out Donald Trump is responsible for vegetable prices, you should come and know
Liberation
what's going
Day
on
tariffs
around the world.
only went into effect 14
I don't
days
know why.
ago.
I don't know why Target's having a problem. I remember a
know
couple of years ago, the
Target's
conservatives were mad at them, and now the liberals are mad at
Right,
them.
but
So
we
it seems
do
like they've
know-
swung.
I know, but
wildly
Scott,
in
we
politics.
do know why Target's having a problem, because they've been the target of a boycott because their customers
and a couple
are
of years
upset
ago, the conservatives were
yeah,
mad at them. And
but clearly, the power dynamic is such that this particular boycott has had a very clear effect on their bottom line.
Okay, I'm just telling you, a couple of years ago they had a problem with it.
But I guess that's the thing. It's like, if the premise is, to Adam's point, if the premise is that woke is bad for business, then why is Target struggling?
Well, I think it depends on who you are and what your brand is. I mean, it was clearly bad for Bud Light when they went down that road, and so some corporations have certainly suffered when they've gone down that road. You know, I don't know what Target's core marketing policies or principles are, but every company has to take a look at their customer base and how they make money and make decisions based on that. It's not smart for corporations necessarily to swing wildly on the political pendulum.
Exactly.
If that is not core to your, what you're trying to do, which is sell shirts.
That Target, the boycott started because people felt as though Target did abandon a key part of its base. A lot of Black consumers that even before the George Floyd protests and the response to that, Target was putting Black-owned businesses on their shelves, and people saw themselves there, and they were purchasing, they were using their dollars to show their power. And so this conversation around woke doesn't work, and I hate that we're using that term, but what you're trying to say is DEI policies aren't working. But the reality is, if we look at, since January, the companies that have doubled down on their DEI policies, like the Costco's and the Delta Airlines and Apple, they're actually doing well. And so,
just said solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a thankful Thursday. We're glad you're with us. We're thankful that you're with us. Hey, by the way, during the break on the live stream, JP has been playing, content. Like we have other things that we do, podcasting, all that. He's also been playing today clips of last night's appearance on CNN. And if you're not familiar, the Abby Phillips show, Newsnight with Abby Phillips on CNN. I've been going up there to New York, like basically once a week now for about the last 5 or 6 weeks, and having a great time doing it. Love it. But it's also kind of funny because a couple of times I've been the lone conservative in the mix. Last night, Scott Jennings and I were sharing the table, so we got to tag team some. But really cool to do. But if you have not seen it, let me encourage you to go to our social media and check it out, because it's just a hoot to be a part of it, and to try and just like push back on liberal mantras at the national level. So go to you go to my Twitter at Sinphil Williams. You can also find Rightside Media on Twitter or X. You can find us on Facebook. JP's been posting all these things on there. And then he's also, during the live stream, playing things during the break. And pretty fun. You know what? I called an audible, JP. I just called an audible. I'm going to go ahead and shift to Dipper 2, and I'll come back to Dipper 1 because I feel like we've hit a nerve. Cracker Barrel. So I've got a piece here that the Dipper is called Off Target with Target. And let's think about, there's a number of things out there like I saw where Will Kane from Fox just tweeted out a little while ago about, if you haven't seen it already, oh my gosh, it's Minnesota, and I forgot what the other team is. Washington's the other team, have male cheerleaders. Which Minnesota and who?
Minnesota, and I can't confirm who the other teams are, but Minnesota has been getting the most heat for it.
Minnesota. Listen, Will Kane tweeted out, male cheerleaders are joining the Minnesota Vikings squad this upcoming season. Supporters call it progress. Critics call it a mistake. And by the way, we're not talking about stuntmen cheerleaders. We're talking about frilly, yay, swing your pom-poms cheerleaders.
Yes.
And it's gross because what they're basically doing is it's like having drag queens in a sense on the stage.
Pretty much. Oh, 12 minutes ago, Eagles just officially introduced two new male cheerleaders who are just like the Minnesota Vikings ones.
So what is going on, man? But the reality is what's happening is you got brands that decide to just leave their base. We're talking about Philly, all right? We're talking about Minnesota. Minnesota won like the very first Super Bowl, Minnesota Green Bay, right? The very first Super Bowl. We're talking about legacy teams. Philly, you're talking about, I want to know how the people in South Philly feel right now about that. I'm pretty sure they're losing their base by doing this stuff. This is what happens when corporations decide their boardroom knows best. Well, we got a situation right now with Cracker Barrel. I got a piece I pulled off a Daily Caller. Dateline yesterday. Cracker Barrel moves towards disaster with hideous marketing move. Okay. And the starts off the line, the piece that I'm reading here says, if it ain't broke, don't break it. Says the restaurant announced a new creative campaign August 18th, including a new logo debuting a refreshed look and feel that positions the iconic American brand for the future. It's also boring, it points out. It is. It's like plain vanilla. Like, wow. So there's that. But you got to wonder what got into them to think this was what was necessary in order. I don't recall seeing that Cracker Barrel sales were floundering. I don't recall seeing that people were, and I had heard there was DEI going on and things like that people were tired of. But the truth is, the image of Cracker Barrel itself, the food, it was all about that down-home country store feeling. That's what it was supposed to be. Not no mo. Now it's going to be fresh, and it's going to be like bright white, and they're taking down all of the memorabilia things, and it's just going to be like, any other diner you might walk into that sells meat and three.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually the opposite. The stock has dropped today
It's
dramatically
cascading.
after
like 20 points, hasn't it?
Yeah, so it's actually, it's not been like the sales are bad, we got to rebound. It's actually done the opposite. This has tanked the sales.
Yeah, I just think that they're not paying attention. You know, Jaguar did this. Jaguar, in the middle of DEI and wokeness falling out of favor after the Trump election, Jaguar comes out and in their marketing campaign for the Super Bowl, they came up with an ad that was the most annoying ad ever. It was a whole bunch of like misfit hermaphrodites. You couldn't tell if they were male or female, and that was intentional. And, you know, standing around staring blankly like some kind of artistic rendering of a Paris fashion show. And it was awful. I don't think it even used the words Jaguar anywhere in the ad. It just had these people walking around looking like zombies from the Hunger Games. Anyway, all said and done, you got to wonder what gets in the minds of the people who make decisions in the boardroom. Well, one of those people who made decisions in the boardroom was the Target CEO. Target, Target, the fancy Walmart. Target, the place you want to go to buy something that you have to have that you can always find there, but you feel kind of like you're fancier than you because you went there than just going to Walmart. Target CEO Brian Cornell is now stepping down after being in the role for over 10 years. Interesting. I did not realize he was the same guy that was there in 2015. In 2015, you may recall this. Target shocked the world by saying, yeah, we're going to go ahead and do transgender bathrooms in all our stores nationwide. What? Outrage. People went apoplectic. There was a conservative Christian boycott across the nation of Target. And they were doubling down. And so my storyline on that is, I decided to do something about it. So I did some research and I discovered that Alabama law and federal law both allow for what they call the sanctity and security of the private spaces. They do. Even Ruth Bader Ginsburg, which you look at and go, okay, where is all this now that we're dealing with transgenders in sports? Because this is 10 years ago. This is before we got, trannies playing in sports and hanging out in girls' locker rooms. But I came up with a bill and I quoted Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who said that there is absolutely every right to expect privacy and security for a woman in her, her private areas, the spaces where she's supposed to be able to assume privacy. And I ran this bill. I was lampooned for it. I even had one. I'll say his name, Matt Murphy. He's been on the show before. We've laughed about it since then. But Matt Murphy actually yelled at me on his own radio show, told me I was creating a solution without a problem. And after he hung up with me, I called right back and said, "You tell Matt if he's man enough, he'll put me back on the air." And he did. He was more humble then. But the reality is this: Target has been volatile for over a decade, all under this one CEO's leadership. And he is now being let go. Story I've got here from Daily Wire, Dateline yesterday. Sales are down in the last quarter compared to a year ago, the New York Post noted, with a total reported of $25 billion in sales. But it was a reduction in overall merchandise. Profit for the quarter was $1.3 billion, which is a reduction of 19% down from last year. You may recall last year, was it last year or the year before? 2 years ago, I guess. Target just lost their minds. Now, they've always done the gay pride thing, but they lost their minds and then they went all in on, like, they had chest binders and tuck pants for transgender children in the swimwear section and the crowds went, "Wait, you've got what?" Oh, by the way, it turns out they were designed by a guy who's a self-avowed Satanist who designed all the clothing for it. Like, okay, you had to want to choose that guy because you can't tell me that you stumbled upon him. Find me someone good to design tuck pants. Here's a guy. Okay. No, he's an avowed Satanist. You ought to see some of his other materials that he puts out. And he designed little tuck pants and chest binders for children. And Target went through a period of volatility like crazy. Shareholders do not respond well to volatility. This is what happens when boardrooms decide they know best. and they decide to go ahead and jump into culture wars and get involved in things that literally drive away half their base. And Target faced a massive backlash 2 years ago. Now the massive backlash is allegedly that liberal black Democrats are saying we can't go there anymore because they did away with their DEI policies. That's ridiculous. But even if it's true, all it clearly indicates is that jumping into DEI in the first place was a bad move. So either A, you got DEI, you got woke, you got broke, or B, you're trying to correct DEI and you're getting broke from the other people who are mad you got no more woke and they want their woke back. All said and done, if you hadn't gone woke in the first place and just maintained your steady course, you'd still be a super profitable company. That's what happens. I got a stack of this stuff. We got to take a break. We'll take that break. We'll come right back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
About this Target CEO stepping down. That's kind of just like smoke and mirrors. They haven't changed their policies yet. So do we know if this is going to reverse course with what
I don't know that it's a sign, Sheila. I don't know that it's a sign, Sheila, that Target is changing course. It probably isn't necessarily, but it's a recognition that the company's performance is not what they would like it to be, it seems.
Yeah, you know, you don't have a CEO stepping down when things are going swimmingly. I mean, that is not typically what happens. But I think it's really hard to be a business leader in this environment. I mean, everything is upside down. You don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next. And I think a lot of them are being influenced by factors that are actually not related to what's best for their shareholders and the other groups who have an interest in the company doing well. They're trying to placate the president, who seems to want to put himself in the middle of all of these private companies and sort of have an influence on how they're running
That's a perfect
themselves.
segue to our next segment, so hold your thought, Phil, because we have a lot more on that. Next, a conservative host is saying that the Trump administration is adopting socialism by injecting the government into corporate America. We'll debate that next. Is President Trump dipping his toe in the socialism pool? Some of his recent moves have the government's hands firmly involved in a number of business dealings. For example, in an unusual move, NVIDIA has agreed to give 15% of its revenue from chip sales to China to the United States government. And in June, Japan's Nippon Steel was allowed to buy out U.S. Steel, but only if the White House was granted a golden share that gives them extraordinary amounts of influence over a U.S. company. And Trump has even leveraged his tariff policy to demand investment in the United States. And just last week, he demanded Goldman Sachs replace its chief economist over their tariff predictions. And yesterday, Bloomberg reported that the administration is discussing taking a 10% share in Intel to help rescue the company. But if you think calling any of this socialism is a bridge too far, well, conservative Eric Erickson thinks that that is exactly what it is.
The U.S. government would become the largest shareholder of Intel. This is actual socialism happening by a Republican administration. This is a horrible precedent. This is socialism. All of you people were freaked out about Mamdani in New York City wanting government-run grocery stores and saying the people need to seize the means of production. That's what Harold Lutnick is doing right now, saying that the government must seize the controlling interest in Intel, the means of production, in order to get government money. You can't just be against socialism when the left does it.
Phil, can you respond to that? Because I think it is perplexing that conservatives would be okay with all of this.
I don't think it's anything related to socialism. I disagree with Eric on that one. So the reality is what you're not looking at here is Trump invoking socialism. What you're looking at here is what I would call more of a public-private partnership towards economic growth. You can look back to Lincoln signing the Transcontinental Railroad Act to connect the two sides of the country. You can look back to World War II and the industrial base, the might of the U.S. industrial base helping to win the war. I think what you're looking at here is the idea that Donald Trump's not going to have influence. That's silly. He's absolutely going to have influence, but he's not weighing in and destroying the free market. He's not doing what Biden did, which is going in and trying to reshape the entire auto industry in his image. What he's really doing right now is he's saying there are better ways, but the free market capitalist
Wait. Are you talking? What are you talking about when you talk about Biden and the auto industry?
Oh gosh, did you not see what he did? There was no demand for EVs to the extent that the Biden administration wanted. So they regulated it into existence. They funded it to make sure it had subsidies to survive. And then when the subsidies went away, the industry collapsed, which was a clear indication that industry was not ready for its day.
So you're suggesting that that is bad, but Trump threatening companies with tariffs and taxes if they don't make certain business decisions, taking actual stakes in private companies, and taking money from those companies in order to allow them to do business abroad. You don't have a problem with any of those things?
The way you're describing is not accurate.
I just read the whole thing. I mean, that is exactly what he is doing. NVIDIA, in order for NVIDIA to do business with China, they now have to pay the U.S. government a percentage of their revenue.
You know, the Keystone Pipeline was going to be a major job enhancer and an energy producer to extend through Canada. It was the U.S. government with Hillary Clinton involved that actually killed that. So yes, don't think the government doesn't get involved.
I'm not defending either of those things. I'm just saying,
use.
You seem to be saying that you're mad about the Democrats doing all those things you just described, but you're totally
okay. And what you're
okay
describing
with
is apples and oranges. Absolutely apples and oranges.
Okay.
You keep citing the free market, but politicizing companies and allocating capital politically is not the free market. Supply and demand is the free market. And you say that Biden reshaped the EV industry in his image.
Oh, yeah,
Trump is reshaping the entire tariff global order in his image. He's placing tariffs on countries that make no sense whatsoever.
I told you had to buy a certain vegetable at the store, and if you didn't And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Pulling some pins on truth grenades. That's what we're doing. Hey, by the way, real quickly, before I jump back into the topic, I got to tell you guys, our friends at 1819 News, they got a cool thing going on, y'all. It is like a way cool thing going on. So if you have not heard, coming up on November 14th, 1819 News is having their annual Albert Patterson Gala Dinner. And that's going to be taking place in Birmingham at Barber Motorsports Park, November 14th. The keynote speaker is going to be none other than Tucker Carlson. So it's going to be a great night. At that night, by the way, they are going to do a raffle. They're doing a drawing. So here's what you get for that. It's $500, and you go, woo, $500. Yes, but look what you get. $500, you get a chance to win a $20,000 Mar-a-Lago package. How about that? There's a trip you could take the missus on. Mar-a-Lago package worth $20. You might get it for $500. All the proceeds go to support 1819 News and their quest to continue bringing truth to the people of Alabama. But yeah, 1819 News, the raffle, $500. All you got to do is go to their website, 1819news.com/raffle. That's it. 1819news.com/raffle. Check it out. The Mar-a-Lago package comes with luxury accommodations for 2 nights. I think it's 1 night, 2 days, spa treatments, a candlelight dinner, and just listen, it's incredible. Can you imagine? That's a $20,000 package. Good Lord. Y'all check it out. 1819news.com/raffle. All proceeds go to 1819 News. I got to jump in some text messages here in a minute, but I got to tell you this. I've got a piece from New York Post. Wall Street is chuckling, says New York Post, over the idea that the outgoing CEO of Target, Brian Cornell, is suggesting that their lousy earnings are because, we've had to get rid of DEI and now we're losing. You know what you should have done? Never jumped into DEI at all. That's all you had to do. It's like Bud Light. If they had just never done the Dylan Mulvaney thing, they'd probably still be on top of the heap. That's how it works. It's like, Colin Kaepernick, wants everybody to believe he's a great quarterback, but he was really just an activist with a football uniform. And now he wants to play again, and nobody wants him. Wonder why.
He's no longer the Super Bowl playing quarterback. He's now the activist who
that would be true.
Is not good at football anymore.
That's true.
That nobody wants to mention.
And he's past his prime anyway. But yeah, Target's CEO Brian Cornell has been let go. He's going to be. It's not leaving tomorrow. He's going to be doing a transition, but he's on the way out. That's for sure. But under Cornell, this article points out Target went all in on DEI, most infamously in its Pride celebrations, a corporate marketing and sales effort that targeted the LGBTQ community, which, by the way, spoiled the shopping experience for a lot of customers. Target and Cornell were on the cutting edge of the woke movement. I told you about some of that a minute ago. But in 2023, there was a full-on customer revolt. And I remind you that in 2015, this same CEO was the one who kicked all that off with the transgender bathrooms thing. But Cornell's explanation, the guy who's outgoing, to the investors is that ending DEI has created a quote unquote headwind. Well, that's a spin. That's quite a spin. Created a headwind. Maybe there's some liberals who don't want to shop at Target because they want more DEI back. But again, my point is, had you just not tried to jump in and virtue signal your DEI hires, your DEI policies, your diversity and inclusion displays for Pride Month and all of it, and put in like transgender clothing for children, guess what? You'd still be on top of the heap. That's all you had to do was just do what you do, right? Hey, auto industry, just build cars. Hey, airplane industry, just fly people around. Hey, retail, just sell stuff. Hey, restaurants, just make food. It's not hard. It's what you did for, well, I don't know, most of our nation's history. But now all of a sudden, virtue signaling, go woke, go broke. That's where we are. All right, I got a couple minutes, so let me go ahead and get a few text messages here. Tom from Decatur says, Target's propensity to be far left comes from a guy named Mark Dayton, the grandson and successful founder of Dayton's department stores. Okay. Says George Dayton. Unfortunately, his grandson, Mark Dayton, former governor and Democratic politician from Minnesota, has taken the chain of stores and turned them into political pawns for the Democrat Party. You know, that's a good point. They are also based in Minneapolis. This is the home of Tim Walz. This is the home of Ilhan Omar. This is the home of some major liberal policies. So, yeah, that's very telling. We got Adam from Athens said, I'm sorry, but the people who watch the NFL don't want to see these men play and dress up. No, they don't. I feel certain. Spence from Harvest says, but a lot of people don't understand is that deep pockets behind Target belong to the Dayton family. There it is again.
Probably should read the first text too. It's kind of.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, well, there was two texts. I did not realize. Spence from Harvest. Cracker Barrel's problem isn't a welcoming atmosphere. It's the quality of their product has gone down the last few years, as has the quality of service. But then again, I don't have an MBA in marketing for some Ivy League school. I'm just a guy that likes to have a good food served hot in a timely manner. What do I know? Point well taken, sir.
Yes.
And guess what? You're the one that matters.
Yes.
That's the point. You are the one that matters. Dave from Capshaw says, you would think before corporations make changes, they would give actual customers a chance to vote on the changes. Yeah. I don't know. How about shareholders vote on the changes? Matt in Madison says Coca-Cola went to town. Pepsi-Cola shot it, hit down. Dr. Pepper fixed him up. Now they're looking for 7-Up.
Hey,
thank you. Thank you very much.
Dr. Pepper is the king, will always be the king of soda. So
Dr. Pepper?
100%.
Oh my goodness.
Are you kidding me?
Oh
yes.
My goodness.
Listen, so we got like 20 seconds left, but I have to say, the Dr. Pepper shake at Whataburger, like the greatest invention ever made. I tried their Dr. Pepper blackberry shake last night, and it may have even topped the original one. I'll just say that. So yes, Dr. Pepper is the king.
And all of those endorsements and all are gratis. We're not getting paid for that one bit. Although we will accept a free milkshake.
Yes, I will gladly.
Blackberry shake. I'm intrigued. All right, we're taking a break right now. We'll come right back. And guess what's coming? Butters and Lee up next. You guys stay tuned. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We will be right back. Too bad that was the only one you could buy, and I was going to subsidize that vegetable industry. And oh, by the way, I was going to regulate that by the time 2030 came along, that's the only vegetable you could buy.
If I told you I'm going to place tariffs on every single country with no discretion whatsoever, and you're going to say he's not reshaping the global order when it comes to that?
Have you seen the budget that we had last year or last month? We actually had a budget surplus for the first time ever. The tariffs are working.
Sheila, hold on. Sheila, first of all, it is not true that you can't go to an auto dealer and buy a non-EV car. So that is not an accurate description.
I said he was reshaping the market.
Yeah, but you described it as if the government were telling people that they can't go get something else at the car dealership when they absolutely can.
Have you seen California?
But you can. The other thing is, so here's the Wall Street Journal's chief economics commentator writing, Trump is imitating the Chinese Communist Party. He says, this isn't socialism in which the state owns the means of production. It is more like state capitalism, a hybrid between socialism and capitalism in which the state guides the decisions of nominally private enterprises. And by the way, Sheila, it seems like the private enterprises are going along with this.
Well, that's what's really shocking is the fact that so few of them are pushing back or banding together to try and resist this unbelievable incursion. But it really seems to me that Trump wants to sort of insert himself like a bottleneck in between whichever major businesses and business transactions interest him, even if they're in the private sector, even if those companies are owned by private shareholders, not by the government. And none of that leads to strong, healthy companies. That leads to cronyism. That leads to people getting jobs, not because of expertise or good ideas or their resume, but because of loyalty, as we're seeing with the, this individual running the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
DEI.
And I think there's a reason a lot of people feel uncomfortable flying on airplanes made in certain countries, I won't name them, because people can't feel confident that they won't fall out of the sky. So we don't want to end up in a situation where important companies are being run and the decisions are being made in order to please Trump and whatever he's thinking about on that particular day.
So we've been talking a lot about the business aspect of this, but also today, Trump is trying to pressure a Federal Reserve governor to resign. He is alleging, or his administration is alleging, without evidence, by the way, that she is responsible for some kind of mortgage fraud. And Trump doubled down, saying Lisa Cook must resign now. Again, this is something where he doesn't have the power to actually get rid of her. So now I guess he's ginning up accusations against her, and not even proven accusations, but just the accusation alone. I mean, that seems like a whole different level of the president using the levers of government to achieve a political end in a business space where he really does not have a role.
Well, he does have a role because the federal housing regulator is the person who has turned over whatever information they have to the Department of Justice on the mortgage fraud allegation. So to say that it's without evidence or without
I guess my
any kind of
point is
backing, I
that
mean, they obviously gave documents and information to
Trump
the DOJ.
is asking her to resign based on an allegation that has not been adjudicated, it has not been proven, just simply an allegation. You're okay with that?
Well, look, I think he wants her to resign because he wants a Federal Reserve Board that's going to lower interest rates.
Right.
That's the bottom line here.
That's exactly right. He wants her to resign because he wants a certain policy out of the Federal Reserve. And in order to get it, he is accusing someone of mortgage fraud. I don't know if it's true or not, but he's using that accusation to get a political end.
Well, if it is, she should think about her future. If she has engaged in this, she should think about her future. Can I respond to something we were discussing on the capitalism issue?
I don't know, Scott. It feels to me like what you're trying to do is change the subject.
If she's committed mortgage fraud, she should resign. I don't know whether she has, but they've got it.
If she's committed mortgage fraud, it should be proven, and then she should resign.
And I also think the Fed should lower interest rates.
Until then, is it okay for Donald Trump to use an accusation that comes from inside his own administration to try to push her out so that he can get a lower interest rate?
I mean, lowering interest rates would help a lot of people in this country, and that is his strong.
Does
the end justify the means?
It would be an uproar here if this was President Joe Biden, right? But here, because it's Donald Trump, it's a public-private partnership.
Joe Biden fired scores of Trump
but I'm just
appointees.
saying.
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Yes, indeed. And then all y'all live streaming, and then all y'all podcasting. The bottom line is wherever you catch the show, thank you very much for doing so. It means the world to us, and you're the reason why we do what we do. Well, let me not waste no more time. Let me just jump on in here. Every Thankful Thursday, about halfway through hour number 2, we have two of our compadres who do things in the background that just make us feel better about ourselves, and they jump on in with their own opinions on stuff. And so let me just call the roll real quick. Is the dynamic diva of punditry from Huntsville, Lee, are you there?
I am here.
You are indeed. Thank you very much. And then silky smooth, buttery voice would be Butters. Are you there?
I am here, Phil. How are you?
I am good, man. Glad you're here. And you, by the way, for those of you who are live streaming the show, you can see Butters in his home studio. Whoop, whoop. Looking shiny.
I'm trying to come in looking good here.
Gotcha. You know what? I pronounce it. It got a quorum. Let's do some Butters and Lee. Whoop, whoop. All right, you guys. I'm gonna jump into a question we've been talking about here for a little while. The Cracker Barrel thing. So Cracker Barrel is changing its logo. Cracker Barrel is remodeling its interior. Even to the understanding, as of about 30 seconds before we came on the air, they're even changing their menu, doing things like shepherd's pie and herb roasted chicken and other stuff. And then I also look at Target firing its CEO. Profits are volatile. Cracker Barrel stock crashed today, by the way. Here's my question for you. Is this a go woke, go broke moment? Is that where we are right now? And I'm going to say, Butters, you first.
Well, first off, I think it's a pretty simple criteria to hire the CEO of Cracker Barrel. If you can't make chicken and dumplings, like, get out of here. So so in their defense, something's been going on and they've been tanking for a long time.
Yeah.
Their stock has been going down and they needed to do something. But yeah, this seems really, and to the go woke, go broke. There's a lot of stuff on their website about inclusivity. They've got a whole section on all the different groups for their employees, for their Black employees, for their gay and lesbian employees. There's a couple of groups that are kind of missing. So I think this is a lot of, I don't know who they're polling. But I want to feel like I'm going home to grandma's.
That's
and
right.
I'm going to have a good meal. Like, it's not that hard.
I know. When you're away from home and you don't have any Southern cooking, you can go there and expect to find it.
And when I was in the Navy, I always knew I could get sweet tea anywhere in the country at a Cracker Barrel if I could find one.
No doubt. I got a Cracker Barrel story but I'll tell you, I'll go to Lee first. Lee, what are you thinking? All this stuff about Cracker Barrel changing its image. Is this go woke, go broke?
Yes. And may I add that if I walked into my grandmother's house and received Cracker Barrel food, I would cry. My grandmother could cook 10 times better than Cracker Barrel.
Well,
I'm just
okay.
going to put that out there. Cracker Barrel food is mid at best. It is not that great. And the quality of the food has been going down for decades. But here's the thing. Remember what happened? I can't remember how long ago, a few years ago anyway, when they really started going woke and they had the rainbow rocking chairs and they're trying to be all inclusive.
Oh, yeah.
That was their first hit. And see, this is a case of, at that time and now, they are not understanding who their core consumer is. You can do all the virtue signaling you want, but if it turns off your core consumer, you're cutting your nose off to spite your face.
That's exactly right.
And they're doing it. The NFL is doing it with these male cheerleaders that are like just women doing the women butt jiggling dances and stuff. I've seen male cheerleaders, they're the ones who hold up the women and they're doing the stunts and they're like these athletic dudes. That's not what this is. So what I'm saying is they're forgetting who their core customer is. That Target kind of screwed itself up, and it's a lot more, it's not as simple as profit for Target, but they've gotten expensive for their items and stuff like that for what they're perceived to be the quality as compared to the cost to me. But so I'm saying Target's a little bit different, but Cracker Barrel just plain forgot who their customer is.
I'll tell you a quick Cracker Barrel story and an endearing moment here. So our son was stationed out at Fort Hood, Texas, was not able to come home for Thanksgiving one time. And we arranged for him to go by there and pick up a Thanksgiving meal from Cracker Barrel because we could order it right here and it would be ready for him there. Except that when he went, they accidentally gave him, and they said that we won't charge extra for it. They did an entire family package, not just like a meal. They did a family package. He was eating leftovers for a week. And
so it was a true Thanksgiving experience.
It was actually, yes, indeed. There was lots of Thanksgiving leftovers for him on that one. But
I hope that this, honestly, it gives opportunity to local family restaurants to fill in. I mean, not that necessarily Cracker Barrel's been really plugging that hole for long, but I don't know. Yeah, there's definitely an issue of woke, but I think there's just a bigger, like, what are you doing? Like, who are you? Who is your customer, and what are you doing to serve them, and how are you messaging them? Because I sure haven't seen a lot of advertising out of Cracker Barrel other than being in the headlines about being woke.
And the new logo is about as lame and plain vanilla as you can get. It's like a plain brown bag. I mean, it's In fact, somebody pointed out that if you look at the old logo, they have the guy sitting on the stool or the chair right next to the barrel, that they have taken off both the barrel and the cracker from the logo. It's awesome.
Oh, okay, that's a good one.
All right, let me do question number 2 before we run out of time. All right, so Texas, don't be messing with Texas. So Texas just yesterday, all the Democrats returned. They lassoed them in, got them back in the corral, started branding them, and then now the Democrats were forced to have to go through the actual process they were elected to do, which was deal on the floor of the House with the redistricting plan. The redistricting plan is controversial. I get that. The reality is they were supposed to be there to be controversial on the floor and not run away from the state. But right now, what's happening is the redistricting plan passed the House in Texas. It now goes to the Senate, and Democrats are having to come apart. And yet, then they're threatening to sue. And yet at the same time, Democrats are cheering Gavin Newsom for trying to do what we would call a retaliatory redistricting out in California. Just give me your thoughts on this. You know, it's good over here, but not over there argument. Lee, you first this time.
Because that just sums up Democrats for you. It's okay when I do it, which should be their slogan. But the point of the matter is, Democrats have been doing this for ages. Look at some of these heavy Democrat states that have 40% Republicans and, you know, one seat that's a Republican seat. And they've been doing this forever. And when you give it back to them, they can dish it out, but they cannot take it. And Gavin Newsom's just making noise. He just wants to show up like some sort of hero because he's really pushing to have his career move forward. And good on him. I want him to run because he's a slimy reptilian piece of you know what. So bring him on out. But I'm saying that this is something they've done for ages, and they just don't like it when it's done to them. Pure and simple.
Yeah.
And if this gets rid of Jasmine Crockett, I'll do a cartwheel.
Butters, weigh in. What are your thoughts on the fact that the Democrats can say bad over here, but good over there as long as we're the ones doing it?
Well, first off, I definitely want to see the cartwheel. That has to be on video.
We will have a YouTube moment.
It's political theater. That's all it is. To me, it's a symptom of honestly, I guess I'd say the social media age and just trying to get headlines. Did any of this theatrics change the results of what was inevitably going to happen and what happens both times? I know, you've talked about, I think you talked about it on CNN.
I did. Yeah.
That they, I mean, like, this is what happens. We elect, a majority and they make changes. As far as Gavin Newsom, if I understand correctly, he's having to actually change the law.
Yeah.
As opposed to what Texas, I mean, and he is definitely theater. I mean, and I as slimy as he is, he seems to be pretty good at the theater of politics. So
it's theater. It's a Greek tragedy is what it is.
So I mean, I think they're just, I mean, pictures of having a suitcase getting out, like what are we doing? Like where did all the adults go? It's frustrating.
Well, I said last night on CNN, one of the reasons why liberals are freaking out over this is because they've done it for years. And now they're like, wait, Republicans, they figured out how to do it too. And they can't stand the idea that we're doing if you look at the gerrymandered states like Illinois, New York, California, there's hardly any room left for them to carve up something that butts out the few Republicans they've allowed to be in, the token Republicans they have in office. So I don't know what they're going to do to get it done, but wow.
And I wonder how much of it is like you've kind of pushed so hard against the right, and we're just trying to get along. We're trying to get along. Have you pushed far enough that there's a lot of folks on the right now that are going, I don't really care. Like we don't really care what your feelings are. We're not trying to get along. We're trying to fix some stuff that's broken.
Absolutely. So, Lee, any final thoughts before we go to break? Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, we always have been go along Republicans for some reason. And then at this point, I think enough people are like, no more. You want to dish it out? We're going to dish it right back to you when we're in power. And they don't like it. They don't like it at all.
Nope. Can't stand it. All right. We're taking a break. We're coming right back. That's round one, Butters and Lee. We come back. The next round is where they ask me questions. And I just hope I have an answer. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
Tonight, Texas is one step closer to redrawing its map to eliminate 5 Democratic seats, making it more favorable to Republicans. And as other states begin to respond in kind, including California, Barack Obama, the former president, is now backing Gavin Newsom's redistricting effort. The former president says that he is against the mid-decade gerrymandering, but he calls this a responsible approach. This war comes as a New York Times analysis shows the Democrats are bleeding voters. Of the 30 states that track registration by party, Democrats lost ground to Republicans in every single one between 2020 and 2024. And that includes with men, younger voters, and new voters, also Latino voters as well. But just on the Barack Obama of it all, Alencia, it's a little bit of a pretzel to twist into, to say, I oppose redistricting in the long term, but this retaliatory redistricting I'm fine with.
Yeah, listen, it's like a ping pong match, right? One party does it, the other party is like, how do we respond to this? I think what is happening right now, you hear a lot of Democrats and some of the most prominent ones realizing that we have to play the same game as Republicans, because what folks are seeing is that these redistricting maps are actually gutting the political power of a lot of our base, particularly Black and brown voters. It's going to eliminate some potentially congressional Black caucus members. And so the Democratic Party is sitting here saying, how do we empower the voters that we need? And then also, how do we say to Donald Trump, you can't get away with this game of cherry picking how you want to maintain control of the House, and we're not going to respond. The thing that I will say about all of this that's happening, Democrats, the base, have wanted to see leadership come to the fight the same way that the Republicans have. And what is happening now with Gavin Newsom, and now that President Barack Obama is behind them, it's showing the fight that actually might help us bring some of these voters back in 2028.
Do you see really that this trolling of Trump and social media, which is doing gangbusters for Gavin Newsom's social media accounts, what's the pathway to actually bringing voters back to the Democratic Party? Because the internet is not real life. That is the truth. And I'm not sure I'm seeing Democrats understanding that.
Well, there's two parts to it. First, you have to drive the attention, then you drive the narrative. So right now, he's getting the attention piece in the attention economy, and he's doing it quite well. He's getting millions of views. I also don't agree that Obama's twisting himself in pretzels. I think it's a completely logical statement. Norms in a democracy work a lot like consent. You can't have meaningful consent when only one side is engaging in that, and you can't have meaningful norms when one side is engaging. So when Obama says we're okay with temporary redistricting, that's what it is, temporary redistricting, proportional to what Texas is doing, I don't think that's very hypocritical. But when it comes to Newsom, get the attention, drive the narrative. That's what Democrats should do.
Well, the bottom line is Democrats are hemorrhaging voters, and I think what's really happening is if you look at the gerrymandered maps around the nation, you will find that Democrats have been at this for a lot longer, and they're freaking out because Republicans have finally gotten onto the game. And so here we are looking at, you can't do it, but we'll do it. That is a pretzel, and I appreciate you saying that. But the other piece of this is that what we're looking at is the Democrat Party is going to have to find their feet sometime soon. They lost 2.1 million voters between 2020 and 2024. Republicans gained 2.4 million voters between the same time span. They are actually hemorrhaging right now. They lack leadership, they lack a plan, they lack a vision, and they lack a message. And so at some point, they're going to have to find their feet.
Last word, Scott.
I think the Democrats are hemorrhaging voters because they've chosen all the wrong constituencies. They seem to care more about illegal aliens than American citizens, violent criminals than law-abiding citizens, and the Palestinian flag more than the American flag.
That is not true, and that is
when you take those positions on things like that, people tend to run to the other party. And
is there one mainstream Democrat that said he likes illegal immigrants over?
And you know that's not necessarily
Chris Van Hollen? There's one.
He said that? Chris Van Hollen did not say that.
He went and had margaritas at Montez.
He met with Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, who was brought back to the United States. The administration conceded that he was sent there wrongfully, so Chris Van Hollen...
I mean, if you want to keep going down this road...
All right, Alencia.
You claim that Democrats like crime.
Hold on. As someone who does a lot of messaging in the Democratic Party, we do have a messaging issue. But the real thing here is that we have to go to these voters and talk to them about the pain that they are feeling before we bring the policy solution. Because we do have the policy solution. We just have have to figure out a better way of listening to our voters. And I think we are in this crisis right now where we are forced to do that. And I do believe that Democrats can come back and gain these voters back.
All right, next for us, the panel is going to give us their nightcaps, what they want to say to their high school haters. But first, a programming note from us. Don't miss an all-new CNN original series, Rebirth of the Superdome. It airs Sunday night at 9 right here on CNN.
Mortgage guy meets Ric Flair.
Yep.
And then now you're married into the Flair family.
Well, not exactly.
Okay.
She was Ric Flair's daughter. Now she's Conrad Thompson's wife. There you go.
Play that for his kids. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. Just bulletproof influence. That's what it is. All right, we're going right back to round 2 of Butters and Lee. Bringing my 2 compadres in right now to ping me with questions and just see where the chips may fall. I'm going to go ladies first. Lee, pray tell, what is your question for moi?
Okay, so you saw where Trump, the $500 million, what would you call that, judgment that he had to post the bond just got overturned?
Yeah, the penalties, yeah.
I don't think that the judgment against him got overturned. I think just the bond.
That's correct.
Are they going to come back and ask for another bond with lesser amount, A? And B, why do these Democrats who have obviously committed a lot of the same fraud keep throwing rocks in their glass houses? What the heck?
Okay, a lot to unpack there. First of all, they're throwing rocks because they hate Trump more than they love America. So they just need a reason to say Trump
Amen.
bad, and that's what they do. But yeah, so the $500 million civil penalty that was attached to Trump's case by Letitia James, appeals court threw it out. Now what happens is the appeals court sends it back, and I don't know, I haven't read the opinion, so I can't tell you exactly what there were instructions in it. Usually it's called remanding with instructions for it to be I don't think they threw out penalties. I think they threw out those penalties, and now the court may determine something more reasonable. What's reasonable, I don't know. So the opinion itself may have given a clue, or at least a direction of what is considered reasonable. And this was certainly not. This was way, way, way beyond the pale. They did not throw out the conviction. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I know not only what the opinion said, but what I don't know for a fact is what the appeal was. I would anticipate they appealed the entire case, like the whole guilty verdict plus the penalties. But this was only a ruling on the penalties, to my understanding. So I've got to dig in and find out a little more about it. But this was a win for Trump, no matter which way you look at it. So
absolutely,
yeah. And Letitia James, like this in your face. How about that? Just in your face. By the way, whatever happened to Fannie Willis? Remember her, Fannie Willis? Whatever happened to Fannie from over in Atlanta? She had the big case against Trump. She was going to take him down. She was the Letitia James of the South. And now she's just like,
well, she had her own troubles, boyfriend and money and, know, all that. It's another glass house thing where you're like, what are you doing?
What's that scripture? You will look for them and they will not be found.
Still haven't seen anybody hauled off in handcuffs.
Not yet. Not yet, but stand by. Butterman, what question do you have for me?
Well, so first, I want to just highlight some local elections that we got coming up next week here in Alabama. I think it's the 26th. That is next week, right?
Yeah.
And so here's just a pontification question on the local elections. What would you say is your rank order with mayors, city council, all these local seats? Not necessarily looking for any specific locations, but in general, what are your thoughts on how would you rank order the importance of some of these local seats that are up?
Wow. In terms of, you mean
Which one's most important? Is our mayor more important? City council more important? School boards? These local elections.
Interesting you asked that. Jeez, Manetti. I don't know that I ever thought about rank ordering them like that. I will tell you this: local means a lot. We saw that during COVID. Local means a lot, and the amount of crap that we have discovered in our schools, which is being allowed in by feckless local school boards, most of whom just don't even pay attention. They're like just going and collecting their paycheck and then voting at the next meeting and then leaving again and then doing a ribbon cutting at the new school gym. That's all that But now that they're being called out quite often, they're dealing with it. The mayor's thing, I think, is a really big deal. It's kind of like watching Trump in the White House, the mayor to any small town. I don't care what size. I knew a very effective mayor who did great things for his town with a population of 900. I mean, it's a beautiful small town, and it's got great leadership in the mayor. I've seen some city councils that can compensate for a bad mayor by having a good council. But I've seen some feckless council members. You look at them and go, you don't deserve to even be sitting at that table. And it's only the strength of the mayor that drives the town. So it's hard call, brother. I mean, but I will say this to sort of touch on the trend of your question, though. People have got to recognize that local elections can sometimes impact you way more than what happens in DC, way more than what happens on your U.S. Senate race, because those people do things like setting local tax rates, lodging taxes. They do things like regulatory burdens at the local level. They pave your roads. They pay for your police departments. They can defund your police. They put books in your kids' hands at school. Local elections mean a lot, and they are so often the election that people stay home for and forget to go do.
Yeah, especially the end of August when it's not all that well known, other than a bunch of signs out in the yards.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting too, Butters, is allegedly these races are apolitical at the local level. They're not. You don't brand. I say brand yourself. I say go out there and say, I'm running for mayor of this small town, or I'm running for city council. By the way, that I mentioned that I'm a Republican. You don't have to qualify as a Republican for the race, but you can sure run as a Republican and tell people you are. And I think that would go a long way in today's environment.
Yeah, definitely branding yourself is a pretty big key. So, but yeah, we've got Southside's got elections going on, and Rainbow City, and I think there's a whole bunch of municipalities around.
I live in the county, so I can't vote on it, but I know the guys that are running. But the folks there's some good people running there in all these races. But hey, listen, that's it. The music's about to play. You guys are amazing. Appreciate you both, Butters and Lee. I was traveling this morning, and Lee reminded me I'd forgotten to schedule this. So thank you very much, Lee, for holding me accountable. Appreciate y'all both very much. All right, that's Butters and Lee, as in every Thursday we do this thing. Thankful Thursdays, thankful for them. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come right back from this break, and you guys, I got plenty of stuff left. We've not even touched down on the home fries. We've not even touched on the don't mess with Texas. In fact, we're just going to be here a while. And I got text messages, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it, call it. Let's hear from you. We'll be right back.
No, I'm just saying, realistically, I'm not Conrad Flair, but she is Megan Thompson.
That's perfect.
Yeah, so
No,
she
that's
joined
good.
my family, and we're delighted to have her. But yeah, it's sort of a happy accident. I met Rick at an autograph event in Rome, Georgia, of all places, and that was in, I believe it was November of 2013. And sadly, he had lost his son Reed to an overdose in March of that year. So he was in a challenging headspace, but we quickly headed off, and he was looking for a friend. And respectfully, he was looking for a friend to go drinking with. And so I signed up to do it. And one of my friends said, hey, man, how many times are you going to drink beer and watch sports with Ric Flair? And I said, about as often as I can, I guess. That sounds like fun to me. So that's what we did. And so we just became drinking buddies. And one day, I think we were watching the NFL draft. He said, hey, what's a podcast? Can you make any money with a podcast? And I said, well, I don't know if you can make money with a podcast, but show me your phone. I'll show you how it works. That was 2014.
So before podcasts were even cool. Really?
Yeah, well, I guess, yeah. CBS had reached out to him and offered him a podcast. So in 2015, he launched Woo Nation on Play.it, which was a CBS platform. And he would go into the radio station on Peachtree in downtown Atlanta and record his podcast. And he got nervous 2 days beforehand. He said, Conrad, it just feels weird, me just being alone in a room talking to a microphone.
I get that.
Will you come in to the studio and just let me, you ask me fan questions? And I said, sure. So I thought, man, I don't know how many people are going to hear this, but I don't want to embarrass myself. So I did a lot of production notes, and I walked in with notes for he and I had things bolded and highlighted and all that.
Yeah.
And the people there at CBS said, hey, who is this guy and why is he here? And Rick said, oh, he's just going to sit in this episode and ask me fan questions. But at the end, CBS said, can you come back next week? That was pretty good. So I became an accidental podcaster. It wasn't the plan. But about a month in, I realized, I've been spending like $100,000 a month on marketing in Nashville, Huntsville, and Chattanooga to promote my mortgage company. But people can hear this all over the world, and I'm not paying for it. I need to get licensed in more states than just Alabama and Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I need to start driving traffic that way. So I quickly did. We went from an ad budget of $100,000 a month. That was the real number for our mortgage company, to $0. And it's all just through podcasts. And we experienced phenomenal growth. We had a much bigger platform because of the podcast. So anytime I get a chance to come on a show like yours, I jump at the chance. I believe in the medium. And I know that, podcasting is a great way to grow small business. And I hope everyone listening to this embraces it.
Well, and I appreciate that, and I agree. And in fact, I would call myself somewhat accidental and late in life too. At that point, I got a call out of nowhere. Would I do a radio show? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And next thing you know, here I am, radio, podcasting, and all of it.
Yeah.
And really watching something grow. And I'm like you. I'm a dual career guy. I've got a law firm, and yet I don't know which one I spend more time on. To be honest with you. In fact, I probably really do. Here I am sitting with you. But the truth of the matter is, it's a hoot, and you get to do what I call impacting culture.
Yes.
And that's where I feel like my calling is impacting culture, and having an opportunity to be a part of the mix, and to express something that other people might go, oh, that's what I've been trying to figure out the words to say, and if I can get that done in a day, I feel like I've done my gig.
Absolutely.
All right. That being said, let me ask you. So the accidental podcaster, but it didn't just stop with the one. You had Woo Nation, you and Ric Flair.
That's right.
Which is not currently going now, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, CBS closed Play.it. CBS Radio actually sold. So when they sunset that, Rick and I had already decided, hey, we can monetize this and sell this better on our end if we just take over sales and everything. At that point, we were quote unquote just talent. But I, as an entrepreneur and small business owner, I was like, I think there's more money to be made if we just control it all.
Yeah.
So I pitched him on, let's just launch our own show independently. And my buddy Dave Green, who I met because he ran the Cumulus Cluster in Huntsville, which features one of your fabulous shows on WVNN, he had moved back home to St. Louis. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, do you think you could represent me as our ad sales guy? And he said, absolutely. So we came up with, using my graphics girl, like a slate for him to pitch, and well, we could, pitch some sales, and it worked. So the success of the Ric Flair show, which we launched, and somehow it debuted at #1 on the sports charts, I said, hey, you know what? This is great, but I sure would like to get some more of those leads the other 4 days of the work week, because I had been used to advertising my mortgage company through the radio Monday through Friday with live ads, because I would call into the station and say what's going on and tell today's success story or what have you. So I thought, I need to build more shows. So I had, through a different project, I was doing some recruiting in Nashville, and I wanted to shoot a campaign targeting guys who had worked in the auto finance industry. They understand sales, they understand interfacing with customers, and they understand finance. So I thought, these guys are natural to do it in the mortgage business, but a much better quality of life. Anybody who's worked in the car business can tell you it's just a grueling grind of a schedule. So to be able to get back more of that time and perhaps earn more money, I thought, hey, this is a home run. So I reached out to a former WWE producer who had produced a bunch of their stuff through the years for guys like The Rock or Stone Cold or The Undertaker. And I said, help me come up with a compelling commercial. So we worked on it for the better part of a week. And near the end of one of our shooting days, we're just collapsing on my couch at the house like, whew, what a long day. And as we're just shooting the breeze, I said, hey, man, what happened when? And I asked a very specific wrestling question. And he adjusted in his seat, and we talked about it, and he told me the story. His name is Bruce Pritchard.
Okay.
And at the time, he had worked at a Volvo dealership, and then after that, he had worked managing a law firm. for a great close personal friend of his named Rob Taylor in Houston, who was really an icon in the mesothelioma and asbestos and all that sort of stuff back in the day. Anyway, I'm saying all that to say he thought he was completely done with wrestling and wrestling was done with him. But what I heard that day, I was convinced at the end of that conversation. I said, Bruce, we should do a podcast.
You heard the institutional knowledge.
And he said, well, who wants
Yeah.
to hear me talk? And I go, dude, every wrestling fan would be riveted by what you just said. The only trouble is we didn't record it. But if we would have recorded that and posted it, it would be the most viral wrestling podcast there is. Well, eventually I convince him to let's just record a few for
Okay,
fun.
how long was the eventually? How long did it take?
Maybe 3 weeks.
Really?
Yeah, because he had just the way it actually happened is he had just launched a T-shirt store on ProWrestlingTees.com. So the idea would be if you were no longer contracted by WWE, you still had a little bit of name recognition. Think like $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase.
Yeah.
Then they're selling shirts that looked like the $1 Million Man's jacket. It's just a black T-shirt, but it looks
Yeah.
like it. So it's just a fun. If you get it, it's retro wrestling. You get it. Well, he had some for his Brother Love character that he portrayed in 1988. And I said, here's the thing. I can sell some mortgages. You can sell some T-shirts. What's the downside?
Conservative and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 on Thankful Thursday. It's Thankful Thursday. You know what? I feel like hearing the sound effect again. Thankful Thursday. Hit it.
You got to be more thankful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
We thank you so much for this bountiful harvest of Domino's, KFC, and the always delicious Taco Bell.
Have you said thank you once?
Thank you. I swear it's Gilbert Gottfried. It's Gilbert Gottfried has that voice at the end.
I wish we could see the video of the effect too, because it's just he's like, "Thank you."
Hey, by the way, I gotta step back. All right, so this Cracker Barrel conversation, it's like the dipper that wasn't planned. I had planned to talk about nothing but Target, and it turned into Cracker Barrel, but that's okay. I had a Cracker Barrel intro to Target. Cracker Barrel became the dipper. I'm good with it. But Robbie Starbuck, I follow him on X, and Robbie Starbuck just posted some things, and thankful for Lee from Huntsville who sent me this link. I had seen earlier. I told Butters. I told JP. Robbie Starbuck's got some stuff apparently about what's going on behind the scenes at Cracker Barrel. Well, Lee from Huntsville caught it and texted it to me. So one of the things that may explain a lot is it turns out that one of the board members for Cracker Barrel's board of directors is a guy named Gilbert Davila, who is a DEI strategy firm. Okay, so one of your board members is a DEI strategist who also, by the way, used to be a VP for diversity at Disney. Wow. No wonder. By the way, he pushes for DEI in all his advertisements. So that's basically saying that Cracker Barrel is like infested with DEI. And then I think there was one other. Hang on a second. Let me see what she got. Is this one? Okay, yeah. And then there's just some other stuff that doesn't really relate, but it's Cracker Barrel. But that's fascinating. You're watching right now as Cracker Barrel is imploding on the stock market. But anyway, we got somebody on the line right now. That you got to tell us who you are. And wait, I tell you what. Let's go ahead and take the call. This is Phil. Who's this?
My name is Jimmy Weiss. I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I was going to join in on the conversation for Cracker Barrel. I have a couple of thoughts.
Well, you are on the air right now, Jimmy, so go right ahead.
A couple of thoughts, okay? About 6 years ago, I know some folks that have worked for Cracker Barrel for many, many years. Cracker Barrel started serving alcohol and mixed drinks, and I know that I don't take my family to Cracker Barrel because I don't want to have to explain to them what other people are drinking. And my grandchildren, my son will not take his children to Cracker Barrel because they serve alcohol. And I mentioned this a couple of times to the waitress or when I'm going out, paying. I just still go to Cracker Barrel a lot. That if they would just quit selling alcohol and go back to the basics of who they are and where they started, then their business would pick back up.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I think there's a whole lot of reasons why. I don't know that I'd even thought about the alcohol connection offending some folks, but I will tell you, I think they've lost their way on a variety of things. But Jimmy, you're from Chattanooga, you say?
Yes, I live in Rossville. It's just I've got a clump of trees at the end of my driveway, and it's Chattanooga. So I just tell everybody I live in Chattanooga.
Good enough.
I used to listen to your radio station when I lived in Albany, Georgia, many years ago. But anyway, I never call in unless it just irks me. So that's the reason I'm calling in.
Well, Jimmy, we're glad you got irked
sir.
and called in, man. Thank you so much for your time.
I enjoy your program. Keep it up, sir.
All right, thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. I didn't even recall that they serve alcohol at. Did you? I didn't know.
I didn't know that either.
Okay. Wow.
But it just kind of points to, again, like they're going, for some reason they're afraid of the like grandma's cooking local conservative restaurant. And I mean, I think that may be part of the dominoes that got us to where we are now.
Matt and Madison, by the way, just texted in and said that DEI now stands for done eating in there.
Done eating in. Yeah. That's good.
Dorothy from Elkmont texted in, sent me something on Instagram. I can't look at it. So JP, you can check it out and see what it is. Kim from Danville says, if you're looking for good soul food, turnip greens, dumplings, cornbread, and you're out near Hillsboro, Alabama, Dots cannot be beat. The line starts before the door opens at lunch every day. Wow. So Dots over near Hillsboro. Thank you. You know what? I'm getting hungry by the minute right now. Kenneth from Somerville says, with regards to Target, it's pronounced Target. We used to call it that. I always felt like it was fancy Walmart.
Target.
We're going down to Target to do some upscale shopping. We're not going to that Walmart. We're going to Target. Mike from Athens gave us he says, I mean, if they're going to go woke, as a white man, I'm offended by the word cracker. White people are often called crackers, which offends me. And then he laughs.
I think he's saying, he's making fun that they just ought to call it the barrel, I guess.
Call it the barrel.
Yeah.
Go down to the barrel. Why didn't they do that?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Kenan from Huntsville says, the last time we ate at Cracker Barrel, the waitress said they were being pushed hard to upsell the customers. I believe it. Upsell and then downsize the portions. That's been driving me crazy. Raven from Russellville says, Colonel, I was just wondering, how long did it take you to get all the CNN wiped off of you? That place and those people are nasty, not to mention dumb as a rock. Well, I will tell you this. I was definitely in the devil's den sometimes, but there's some solid people there. And you know what's crazy is even during the breaks. Now, there was, of the times I've been up there, there was one time during the break that it was a little stiff, I will say. I'll just go ahead and say it again. I think I said on the show yesterday, Anna Navarro, who was a host on The View, was sitting next to me, and she just acted like she was indifferent to the idea that she was even there. And we were all just waiting on her to speak next. Anyway, it just never struck me as being very cordial. Every other time, though, even though we might rail on set, people are chit-chatting off set and laughing and cutting up, and there's been some good times. So it's kind of funny, man. But, dude, I mean, last week I was there and had the show in D.C. I'm in the green room. I actually texted Charlene. I told you this on the air. I actually texted Charlene and said, I am way outnumbered here. I was the only conservative around. Even the only Republican they brought in was a never Trump Republican, Jonah Goldberg.
He was a CNN Republican.
Yeah. And then they had, I was standing in the green room with David Axelrod from the Clinton administration. I'm like, God almighty. But yeah, they were, I was outnumbered, but nonetheless, I went in there and held my own. Dave from Capshaw says, Phil, do you receive the I'm a Pepper? Do you receive the I'm a Pepper, Dr. Pepper commercial? What does it mean? I'm a Pepper.
I guess, did you like it?
I did. Yeah.
I don't know if
I'm a pepper. He's a pepper. She's a pepper. We're a pepper. Wouldn't you like to be a pepper too?
I don't think I know that commercial.
It's older than you.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Yeah. There are some jingles that stick forever. I still remember the Fig Newton commercial from when I was a kid. Put the inside in the outside. Is it good? Darn tootin'. It's the big Fig Newton. One more time now. The big Fig Newton.
I guess they don't make commercials like they used to anymore.
I am stuck on Band-Aid because Band-Aid stuck on me.
I know that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, plop, flop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is.
I know that one too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could go all day. Apparently, I'm very prone to advertising. Raven from Russellville says, when you're outnumbered, you attack. That was the plan, brother. I brought it to him. Turn face onto the enemy, square your shoulders, keep that sappy plate in the front and move forward. Jeff from Indiana says, looks like I'll be listening to you while watching dolphins. How cool is that? That is cool. And the fact that you're listening to us even still is even cooler. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you, man. TC from Priceville says, back to that story I had a while ago about New Coke, says New Coke conspiracy is worth looking into. Basically, it was all by design in order to stop using cane sugar and start using high fructose corn syrup. Interesting.
Well, didn't RFK
Yeah.
make it to where everybody has to do cane sugar?
Everything's going back to cane sugar. That is the plan. And oh, by the way, if you've ever had, you can get a Mexican Coke. If you look at it, you'll see anyway.
See, I've never had one of those.
You can buy them. I see them at Costco and things like that. They're actually set up a separate display. They're Mexican Cokes, but they taste better. They have a cane sugar.
I bet they're better for you than
probably
high fructose corn syrup.
You don't go blind when you drink them. That's great. Joe in Tennessee says, I never went to Target. I call them Target or Target. He says, Target. Okay. Said all you need to know is that they are from Minnesota. There's that. Dana from Athens says, New Coke went away. Classic Coke became a thing. Yes, it did. Cameron from Decatur says, Cracker Barrel needs to reinstate their original logo and bring somebody in to teach them how to make grits. You ever had that runny soup they call grits? I have been offended by their grits before. Yes, I have.
I've never had their grits.
Their grits are not to travel for. It's grit soup. It's not meant to be that way.
Yeah, soup or grits is not supposed to be soupy.
All right, now wait, I got to ask you a question. This is serious, JP. Don't mess with me now.
Yeah.
Grits, butter and salt or sugar?
I'm not a big grits eater, so I don't know if I can answer that for you. I'm not a regular grits eater.
You're from Alabama.
I know. I'm not. I like grits. Yeah, I'll eat them, but I just didn't. I wasn't around grits growing up that
butter
much.
And salt. Butter and salt's the only right answer.
Sugar. People put sugar in their grits.
They're made of corn. Yeah, exactly.
Huh. No, I've never heard of that.
Butter and salt. Man, the text messages are flowing. I'm going to get a few more and keep it going. We got a break coming up in a minute. Let me do this first. Allie from Athens earlier had said the sanitization of Cracker Barrel reminds me of removing the Native American princess from Land O'Lakes butter. Yes. And how about Aunt Jemima? Whatever happened to Aunt Jemima? Everybody loved Aunt Jemima. Oh, and by the way, it was Aunt Jemima and Mrs. Butterworth. Mrs. Butterworth. And then what's the Uncle Ben's rice? Uncle Ben's. Come on. Totally unnecessary. Totally. Ian from Hartzell says, it's 3 hours to dinner. Y'all are making me hungry. And on that, we will take a break. We're taking a break right now. You guys are an amazing audience. More text messages are flowing in, including Raven from Russellville, who says, it's butter and salt. Yes, sir. Yes, it is. That's right. Covey leader calling Raven. Do you have your butter and salt on your grits? Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We started doing the show, and before we knew it, we were getting hundreds of thousands of listens on every episode.
How cool is that?
And what's interesting is the day that show debuted, and that's really the one that put us on the map, and we won Sports Illustrated's Podcast of the Year and all that other stuff. That show debuted on the very same day I had my first date with my now wife.
No
so
kidding.
It's a pretty important day in the history of my life.
Remember the date?
August 3rd.
Okay.
August 3rd.
Don't go down that road and not name
That's
the date.
right. That's right. That's right.
Well, that's very cool. So how long did that one run?
It's still going now.
Oh, that's the one that's still going.
What's interesting is we started in 2016, in August of 2016, and by February of 2019, Vince McMahon had called and hired him back to work in creative. And as we're talking now, he's the executive vice president and creative director of WWE. So depending on who you ask, he's one of the most 5 or 6 most influential people in wrestling. But it was our podcast that sort of was the foray in him getting back into it. So with the success of the Bruce Show, I said, hey, that was the WWF side of things. What if we did one for their biggest competitor, WCW? And I reached out to Tony Schiavone, who was on TBS from 1983 until 2001.
Yeah.
But then he left and started calling minor league baseball. And when I met him, he actually was working at Starbucks because his family needed insurance. And I said, hey, man, here's what I did with Bruce. I think, we could make some money here and raise the profile for you if you were interested. And the timing was perfect because he had just found out his daughter was getting married. He had a new wedding bill coming, and he's like, hey, let's do it. So we made a gentleman's agreement. I'll sell some mortgages, and I'll let you keep all the ad revenue until we get this wedding paid for. Well, when it was done, we just kind of assumed, well, is that the end of the podcast? And we did a podcast from the wedding reception where we announced, no, we're not canceling the podcast. We're going to keep it going. Well, when Tony Khan, whose father owns the Jacksonville Jaguars, decided he wanted to open his own wrestling league, he was a big listener to our podcast. So he reached out and said, can you get me in touch with Shivani? I want him to do what he's doing for you, for us. So now every Wednesday night he's on TBS, and every Saturday night he's on TNT.
Isn't that
Tony
cool?
Schiavone's back in wrestling. So
Isn't that cool?
It's super fun.
It's just amazing. And you know, you call it the accidental podcaster.
Yes.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think anything's an accident.
I agree.
And I don't think anything about what you described was accidental either. It's obvious your entrepreneurial spirit keeps kicking in.
Oh yeah, I'm having a blast.
Well, that also comes out. You know, and going through getting ready to sit down with you today, and I've heard your story before, but I've never heard all of your story before.
Sure.
But you didn't just like go to prison. You were on the run for a while, and
Sure.
then they caught you swinging on a rope out the window trying to get away from a drug bust.
Yeah.
And I am of the understanding that at some point, Dog the Bounty Hunter was offered the opportunity to track you down, and he declined.
Yes, and I don't think he declined. I don't think he based off of. Well, so I'll just tell the story. That's
You
what
have
we
to
do.
now
That's
that
what we
I've
do.
asked
We have to
about
tell
it.
stories. Yeah. So here I am. I've now racked up 6 felonies. That 6th felony was the doozy. Okay, and the 6th felony was, I was already out on bond. I was already on probation, and I'd been up for 3 or 4 days. Found out one of these guys who had informed the cops about some legal activity that I was involved with. Found out that he had just come into some money, and he owed me money, and he also narked on me, right? And so in that world, you don't do that. Those are the rules, okay? You don't do that. If you want to play in this society, you don't do that. Now, a lot of people did, but there was an enforcement mechanism called me, okay? And if you're going to do that to me, I'm going to find you, and I'm going to hurt you. That was the way it worked. And he wasn't the only one that I did that to, but he was the one that ended up telling the cops again. So I went to his house. I'd been up for 3 days, strung out on meth, pound on his door. He answers the door. I said, he's like, hey, man, what's going on? I just immediately said, why'd you tell on me? And I didn't tell on you. I walked into his house, pushed him. Why'd you tell on me? I didn't tell on you. And I just started to beat him relentlessly. And the guy that I was with, so the way that it reads in the charges, and it's because they only wanted me to go down. They didn't care about the other guy that was with me. I was their target, okay, for the cops, law enforcement. I was the one running all these drug rings and theft rings and motorcycle theft rings and all this stuff. So they were after me. And I wasn't going to tell on the guy that was with me, but this is what actually happened versus what if you read the articles online and the charges and stuff. I was tasing him and beating him and tasing him with a taser and beating him, trying to get him to admit that he told on me. Well, the guy that was with me had a blackjack, which is like it's not makeshift, like you can buy them. Yeah. It's got like a mechanical spring inside of it with a heavy piece of lead with leather wrapped around it.
Yeah.
And he hit him square in the forehead with it. Boom, his head explodes. Blood goes.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just giving you all the truth you could slap on a bumper sticker. Let me just tell you, you guys are some texting machines. I'm pretty sure you said it a minute ago during the break. Every time we talk about food, it lights up the phone line, text lines.
Man, none gets the people talking like food.
Oh,
and hey, rightfully so. Okay?
Rightfully
so.
Hey, it's food.
Yeah.
It's more than food right now. We're talking about like good food.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're all hungry. Like that's good food we're talking about. I tell you what do you think, JP? Do more tech messages? Because I mean, there's a bunch of folks. Let's just do it.
Pretty much the wide consensus is grit's good.
Let me get a few of these. Gary MS from Huntsville. Gary MS says, I like my eggs over easy. When I get my grits, I spoon the yolk over my grits, and then I add salt and pepper. Oh, man. Listen, I may have to ask Charlene if we can have breakfast for dinner tonight. Lee from Huntsville says, when I grew up, my mom served grits with butter and sugar. What? I only eat them with salt and pepper now with bacon. Yes. I'm going to have grits for dinner. I just am. Scott from Russellville, Alabama says, JP, not dealing with grits might be related to his weak man card from not watching Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Wow.
Hey.
You getting called out, dude.
I don't know what to say.
No Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? No, have you seen Outlaw Josie Wales yet?
Can't say I have.
My
I'm sorry.
God. and you don't eat grits.
I mean, I like grits. I just didn't grow up eating grits all the time, so I can't have a valid opinion on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Raven from Russellville reminded me that we have long time said that the official food of Rightside Radio is maple bacon donuts. Hoorah, airborne, he says. And there you have it. Maple bacon donuts. Listen, have you had a maple bacon donut?
I have.
Oh, my goodness.
They are quite
Holy
something.
cow. That's a thing. John from Harvest says, being from California, grits just seem like a bowl of snot. Sorry, not sorry. John, you live in Harvest, Alabama now. You need to assimilate. It's time to come on in. We'll take you. I mean, I'm talking fried chicken. You're talking about scrambled eggs. Get you a little gravy. Slap it on a biscuit. Oh, by the way, butter and salt on the grits. JP from Priceville says butter and salt with crumbled bacon. There you have it. Jerry from Decatur says, hey, Cracker Barrel, it's God, family, and country. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you very much. Paul from Athens says, my baloney has a first. Oh, yes, there's another jingle. My baloney has a first name. It's OSCAR. My baloney has a second name. It's MAYER. I love to eat it every day. If you ask me why, I'll say, because Oscar Mayer has a way of BOLONGA. Why do I remember that? That is like from me being 6 years old.
Advertisers love people like you. They remember that.
Matt from Madison says, did you know Barry Manilow wrote? Yes, he did. Barry Manilow, the less than manly but very quality Grammy Award-winning singer-songwriter, wrote a bunch of those jingles. He wrote the Band-Aid one. I think he wrote the Plop Plop Fizz Fizz for Alka-Seltzer. He wrote several. David at Bucky's. Phil, is it soup yet? We're working on it, dude. Jeff from Indiana says, come and get you from the Sunny Lady. They had a giant lady go overboard. Wait, hang on a second. What now? A giant lady fell overboard? Oh, I see. That's right. I know where you are now. Exactly. That's an attraction down there on the beach. What else we got? Real quick. Before we go to the break, what do we got? Let's see here. That's it. That's all. I caught up with all the text messages, especially the ones on grits and maple bacon donuts. And listen, I'm just telling
all the
you.
important texts say that. Yeah.
I am pretty excited about it too, as a matter of fact. Hey, by the way, we're gonna do another audible because there's a story that broke that relates to Alabama right here in this listening area. University of West Alabama, down yonder in what community is that? I'm trying to think which one.
It's just west of Tuscaloosa.
It is west of Tuscaloosa. I've been there. I actually spoke to a Rotary Club down there at UWA, but I can't remember the name of the town off the top of my head. Anyway, end result is one of their officials just got caught in like an expose video talking about how he's working to get around the whole policies about no DEI on campus now. And when he was confronted, it got even funnier. But we're going to come back from this break. And since we've been talking about DEI and talking about the things that, we need to see less of, we're going to go ahead and deal with that and see where it is. But we got the audio track, I guess the video track to go with it. And I made this I have not seen it. JP told me about it. All I know is it's out there as a story. And so I'm going to be jumping into this thing first thing with you too. Y'all stay tuned. We will do a lot of stuff on the show, but bringing truth to it is one of the main reasons we're here.
The West Alabama video it's one of those like Project Veritas, where they went undercover with the camera. So it's like, the fact that he didn't even know he was being recorded and that he was saying what he was saying, so boldly makes it even better. It's the like how he has the guts to say. Well, we'll play it after the fact, but it's like no shame after the fact that he's saying it. Like I said, with no shame at all.
I'm wondering what the school's going to say about this. Has the school mentioned? Well, I'll tell you what, we'll talk about when we get back. How about that? University of West Alabama. Any graduates out there? Guess what? They're still pushing DEI on campus. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Everywhere was not the intention of that visit. Okay. My intention, I actually was friends with the guy and liked the guy, but he had broken the rules. And so I was in there to make sure that he understood that you don't do this. The guy I was with cracked his head open, blood went everywhere. And I'm like, well, at this point we're done. Okay. Like this is over. And after he got hit in the head with that, he admitted that he told on me. That happened. But that was not the intention of this meeting was to go that serious and that far, but it did. And once it did, I just started grabbing computers and anything that was of value. I told his brother, I said, look, if you guys don't pay us, pay me the money that you owe me, I'm going to be back, and that's going to be you. And I walked out. And so they hit me with attempted murder, aggravated robbery, and extortion. That night I got arrested again.
That's go away charges right there.
Those are go away charges, yeah, for a long time. And it was my 6th felony, right? So my 6th time I've been arrested and charged in separate cases. And so I got arrested that night. I went to court basically, and they dropped the attempted murder down to first degree because it didn't fit. And so my arraignment, I don't know what they call it. You're a lawyer. I'm not. Although after being in prison for a little while, you actually kind of turn into one. But they dropped it to first degree assault. And so I was charged with first degree assault, aggravated robbery, and extortion, and a slew of other things. But those were the heaters. And so I'm in there for 2 weeks, and I get bonded out again. And so now I'm out on several $100,000. No, I think it was like $135,000 worth of bonds, if I remember correctly.
Who posted bond?
There's so many rabbit trails I could go all the way down. I just don't know how interesting they are. There's this girl, I think her name was Lisa, that she was just infatuated with me and thought the world of me. And she went and used a credit card to buy a bunch of Xbox 360s that were out at the time, and then sold them and got the money to bond me out.
No kidding.
No one's ever got that story, Phil. You're the first that got that story. That asked that question. There you go. But yeah, I ended up bonding out, and knew immediately that if I go to court, I'm going to prison for the rest of my life. So I'm not going to court, which now makes me a fugitive because I missed my court date. Right? I'm on the run. And the plan was, I had a friend, Spider. He and I were supposed to, and Spider's a very bad dude, like very, very bad, Hispanic guy who's part of the Sereno gang. And we were supposed to go down to California with his people and then go into Mexico. That's what they do on the movies. We felt like it was a good idea. Only problem is we never got around to doing it. And so I ended up on a number of occasions, the cops ended up finding where I was, but they didn't have a warrant and they weren't sure. And so there's a couple different ways that I was able to get away when I was on the run.
Yeah.
And that infuriated them. Okay.
This is how long? Like several weeks?
Yeah, it was about 2 or 3 weeks. Yep. And so you had, at the time, there was Officer Mork and Officer Goldbranson, which were with Colorado Springs Police Department. But then you had Sergeant O'Driscoll, who was the head of the Fugitive Task Force and Crime Prevention Unit.
You still remember their names?
Yes, I do. And there's a story in that too. This would have been 2007.
Oh.
Yeah, and so Sergeant O'Driscoll and his team, not only was he on the Fugitive Task Force, he was part of the Crime Prevention Unit. So even before I was a fugitive, both Mork and Goldbranson and Sergeant O'Driscoll and his team, they were dedicated to bringing me in and taking me down. Okay. Because of the threat that I posed in running these crime rings or whatever, and but the Crime Prevention Unit and Fugitive Task Force was ran by Sergeant O'Driscoll. They ended up they have like unlimited budget, work with the feds, all this other stuff, and so they were on me, and so I got away a couple times, and finally June 19th, 2007. I am in what we deemed my safe house, and Spider had given me a nylon rappelling rope to tie to the bottom of this 70s retro recliner. And he's like, if you got to get out, you go, because the front door there's a hallway in these apartments, and then you go from the hallway into the apartment, and the only way out would be down the window, out the window and down on the ground, and it's 3rd story. And I'm like, I'm never going to use that. That's crazy, but I did. Every 18 inches, I tied a double knot, so I could climb like that. And, I woke up June 19th, 2007, not thinking anything, just another day of being on the run. And I was in my living room.
One of your interviews, you said you woke up at 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah, it was that afternoon. And it was that afternoon. I was, again, smoking weed, doing drugs. And, your circadian rhythm gets a little off in that situation. And so woke up that afternoon. It's the weird thing that you remember. I was cooking broth.
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all are talking about this show. This one,
This show, I mean, it goes like from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that lovely little village on the plains we call Auburn. And once again, across the border to what we call Fort Benning. And then back up there, you got big old patches of North Georgia, big old patches of Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. And then, oh, by the way, that's just the radio. Then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world going the World Wide Web, live streaming the show. Look it in the studio, like right now, on video, audio, all of it. Places like X, Rumble, YouTube, and Facebook, and our website, rightside.media.org. And then there's all y'all that podcast. Thank you very much. Doesn't matter where you pick up the show. The fact that you do means the world to us. We're doing this because of y'all, and we appreciate you. On a Thankful Thursday, we're thankful for you. How about that? Real quick, I'll get a couple of text messages, and we're going to jump on this topic that JP's helped me with. By the way, Joe in Tennessee reminds me that University of West Alabama is in Livingston, Alabama. Livingston. That's right. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. Chris from Huntsville says shrimp and grits is best, and UWA's in Livingston. Thank you very much, Chris. David at Bucky says, I'm reminded of the scene in My Cousin Vinny. What's a grit? How do you cook them? So in the Army, you would see this. Guys would come down like to Fort Benning, Georgia, in the mess hall, and they'd stare at their food, and they're from New Jersey. And they're up there eating like cream of wheat and stuff, right? Cream of wheat. What's this? It's grits. What's a grit? And then you have fun. You go, well, they grow on grit trees. Really? Yes. Native to the South.
Native to the South.
Last one, Fritzy from Huntsville says, JP, I want to go see an Auburn football game this year. Any recommendation? Which one might be the best this season? Fritzy.
I mean, there's the Georgia and the Iron Bowl both in Jordan area this year. But if you want to go to one that Auburn may actually win, then you may go pick a cupcake.
Whoa. Hey. Wow. Okay. We'll just see.
However, they'll both be fun games. So
we'll just see how you feel when the season's over. We'll just see. I look forward to JP on Sports every week as you update me once again on nothing about Alabama. Alabama this, Alabama that. Hey, so we talked a lot today about the whole situation with Target firing their CEO. Target's stock was just volatile because they constantly were dabbling into wokeness, and they would drive people away. And now what they've done is they've officially, allegedly, abandoned DEI. So now the libs are mad. Well, how about this? If you had never gotten into DEI in the first place, you'd probably be better off. Well, in Alabama, our state legislature passed a legislation just in the last couple of years that abolishes the use of DEI in government and in education environments, all of which are state taxpayer funded, right? So what they're doing is saying, if we're paying for it, you're not doing it. We've had real problems with some of the universities attempting to rebrand their DEI efforts and just give it a new name. I think one of them was UAB, and then another one we find now is apparently University of West Alabama. So University of West Alabama is now crawfishing. I've got a piece right here that says the University of West Alabama's president claims the school is fully compliant with state DEI laws, despite the video suggesting otherwise. So JP clued me in while I was traveling today. This video broke. Give us what you got, JP. What's the word? What's this about?
The dean of students at West Alabama was caught on video, not knowing he was being recorded, talking to some undercover reporters, saying how the university has cleverly found a way to circumvent these laws and basically still have DEI, but just changing the name.
Did he say they're actually looking for loopholes or something like that?
Yeah, like he in the video directly said that they are finding loopholes to get around this to continue to get state funding for these programs, just changing the name essentially.
Unreal.
So
all right, how long is this video?
About 2 minutes. We can go as long as we want with it.
Yeah,
but
all right, so you can hear everything on it?
Yes.
All right, let's play it.
Can't directly fund DEI programming, so we have been looking for loopholes.
Stop. Okay. He actually says it just like that. We can't fund DEI programming, so we've been actively looking for loopholes. All right, go ahead.
Byron Thetford? That's me. Oh, we received a report that you were pushing DEI in defiance of the state law and seeking loopholes to get around the law. Is that true?
It's not, no, sir.
You've never talked about pushing loopholes to get around the law?
I haven't, no.
What about this video of you right here specifically saying?
So we have been looking for loopholes.
I mean, that does look like you, correct?
That is me, yes.
Okay, and you said right here that you were searching for loopholes in the law. What did you mean by that?
Can we play the video?
Sure.
We can't directly fund DEI programming, so we have been looking for loopholes. So part of this position would be working with some of that. We have some funds through our PBI grant that we would like to dedicate to that.
Wow.
And we do still have a chief. We have somebody who's serving as our chief. I have to be careful. It to be somebody who's serving as our chief diversity officer currently. They're fluxing out of that role because we have to for state purposes. If we want to continue to have state funding, we had to discontinue all DEI.
Wow.
I guess that was my question. Yeah, like that's my question. Like, is it going to go away?
Just like with Florida, when you're not having to completely go away, it's just that you can't use state funds. So part of that would be payroll funds.
What does that mean? Payroll funds?
Payroll funds are funds that are used to pay people.
Sure, they come from the state, do they not?
Most of them do, yes.
Well, then they are state funds being used for DEI. Well, what did you mean by you're looking for loopholes?
We're still looking for ways to provide for our students in any way that we can.
Wow.
So we are all still partnering to work together to offer programming and events for those certain things. We're just being more mindful about how we go about it.
It's up there. I think we get the gist of it. You know what's crazy? If those of y'all who are just hearing this but not able to watch the video, the smugness on his face. I mean, he's giving you like the wink, wink, nod, nod look.
I have to be careful how I say things.
Got to be careful how I say things. It just, wow.
I love how he got like his face when he got. Part of me feels bad because he's in a t-shirt and shorts. And didn't know he was about to get ambushed.
When they catch him on the way, he doesn't look like he's been to the gym, so he must have been out for a walk. But so I look at this and think, okay. By the way, who's the exposé? Who ran this? It wasn't Project Veritas.
No. So the name of the company is Accuracy in Media.
Okay.
But it's kind of a similar thing as a Project Veritas.
Well, what strikes me is they didn't go there on a lark. They went there because apparently this guy has done this enough to where the word got out. Hey, he's actively doing these things. Go check it out. And then they went to do a story. So this is not like a one-time oopsie. This is apparently something that was significant enough that these people came in from out of state to swoop in on him because somebody gave up the goods on what he was doing.
And now you mentioned this to me. I hadn't seen this, that apparently the president of West Alabama put out a statement and saying that they believe they're in full accordance with the law. But like your dean of students was just directly caught on tape talking about how they're not. So I don't know that like this guy's got to get fired, right?
Is he? That was my next question. Is he still the dean of students?
As of now, I believe. I haven't seen
He's probably tenured.
Yeah, but it's like they have to fire him. Like that's about as blatant as it gets. I think the state of Alabama's got to say this guy goes or you lose your state funding. Period.
Unbelievable. Unstinking believable. Wow. Okay. Well, yeah, this guy is what a chucklehead he is. But this is what happens. The arrogance of the left. And I don't know anything about this guy. I'm going to go ahead and assume. I would bet that if we looked up his voting record or found him on social media, we would probably not be of alignment, and we would probably say, well, there you go. But what a complete knucklehead to be in the position he's in and to be saying things to people who just walk in your door like, yeah, hey, I got to be careful how I say it. But looking for a little loophole, we got to spend the money, but we don't want to spend it, and anyway, come on. That's, but keep in mind too, you're in red state, Alabama. This is red state, Alabama. Now that, by the way, Livingston, Alabama, I believe falls into Terry Sewell's district. So that's in one of the only Democrat base Democrat districts, has been for quite a while. But there are still good Republicans down there. I know because I went and spoke to them. But wow, that's something. Wow. All right, take me to a break, JP. We'll come right back. We'll see what's going on the last few minutes of the show. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
And watching the Chappelle show. And I looked out the window, and the way that it's set up, there's an apartment building here. And every year I go to Colorado Springs and I take my family. And this year I took my 15-year-old son, and he's heard me tell this story a million times. And I'm like, here's the bill. He's like, this is just like the building you said. I said, yeah, no, it's because it's where it happened. Okay, like I'm telling you. And we go and we look, and there's an apartment building right here. This is the apartment building I'm in. And I saw the front end of a cop car sticking out. And I knew, okay, they're here. They're here. And so I kind of frantically, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Well, then all of a sudden I hear boom, boom, boom. Colorado Springs police open up. They kick in the door. And I look, it wasn't my door. So I said, they don't know which apartment I'm in. They're kicking in every single door in the apartment on the 3rd floor. All they knew is I was on the 3rd floor. And so you've been in Afghanistan and Iraq. They're clearing rooms as though this was Afghanistan trying to find me. Okay. In an apartment complex.
Yeah.
Boom. Okay. I'm like, okay, well, I look at the rope and this is my only option. And so I kick the screen out, throw my backpack out with all my stuff. And the only piece of furniture in the whole place was the TV and the retro recliner. Okay. That was it. And so I wrap the rope around my hand and I jump, boom. And it sticks exactly how it's supposed to. It's, wedged in the window and I'm hanging there. Well, what I didn't know in that back parking lot, there was a surveillance van.
Oh yeah.
That blends in with the rest of you wouldn't have known it was a cop car or whatever. It was a surveillance van. And they called it in, someone's trying to jump out the window. I think we got our guy, and then 50 or 60 cops, they weren't going to miss me again, come swarming from the outside. Like you couldn't see them because they were right here.
So the jig was up at that point.
The jig was up. Yeah. The gun's drawn, get on the ground as though I had another option. Gravity necessitated that down was the direction I was going to go. And so I unwrapped my hand, fell and hit the ground. Thankfully didn't break anything. They put their knee in my back, cuffed me, put me in the back of the cop car, and that was it. June 19th, 2007.
So I'm fascinated by two things in the story.
Sure.
One is you still remember the cops' names.
There's a story for why, but go ahead.
Well, and then I may get back to that story.
Yeah.
But the other is you take your kids and you show them exactly where this happened.
Yeah.
So we're going to get a lot into, you're obviously a different person today.
Sure.
I know the guy who did those things, but I don't know the guy who did those things because you're a different person. But that being said, you're pretty transparent with, and you have 7 kids, by the way.
Yeah.
You're a prolific breeder,
yes.
but nonetheless, you've got a beautiful family, 7 kids, but you're telling them what's happened in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you real quick? What's their response when they hear about Dad before they knew Dad?
This is a great platform to share the gospel with your kids, right? But the older ones, it's a warning. Proverbs talks about the fool. Dad was a fool, right? I was the epitome of the fool, and in Proverbs and really throughout the scriptures, it talks about a fool. And I didn't seek wise counsel. I didn't receive instruction. I didn't receive discipline. I didn't any of those things. I rejected all of it, and this is where I ended up. And so I don't think it's set. So I've got a 15-year-old, got a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old. Okay. The 15-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 9-year-old are the ones that really wrap their minds around what I'm talking about when I talk about being in prison and, cops chasing me and that kind of stuff. The rest of the ones are younger and they're just like, wow, Dad, you used to be bad, but now you're good. Like they don't have any rebut. It will eventually form like their understanding. And it's something that I want them to always know. And the thing I always point them to is like, 1, don't be the fool, receive instruction, receive wise counsel, obey God and obey your parents. But also life isn't perfect. And if you stray, you can never stray so far that God can't get you. Right. And if God saved me, he can save anybody. And that's not cliche. It's literally, let me tell you about something. But again, specifically my 15-year-old, I drive him all around Colorado Springs. There's not a corner I didn't commit a felony in that city. Okay. And I drive him and I'm like, I did this here. I did this here. I did this here. I did this here. Like, this is who I was. You need to know and understand that, right? And so,
Proverbs 19, raise up a child the way they should go.
Yep.
When they get old, they won't depart from it.
Yep.
All right, brother. So you, the jig was up. They got you. The officers whose names you still recall were a part of the task force that brought you in, and you're staring at 6 felonies prior before you even got to this point, and now you've got this stack of felonies, and you're looking at 384 years potentially.
Sure.
So you're looking at life in prison at that point.
Correct. Yeah.
But you negotiated.
Yeah.
Did you negotiate for yourself, or did your lawyer do a good job?
It's a mix, but there's a bunch between that. But yeah, it gets into media.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. Hey, I'm going to go right to the phones because I don't want to take him away from his vacation any longer than we should, but I understand that the Dolphin Man, Jeff Rowe from Indiana, is on the line. Hey, buddy, how are you doing?
I'm coming at you from under the waterline of the Sunny Lady here in the Bay.
Well, you are a dedicated caller, I will say that. So how's the Dolphin show going?
It did real good. We had some surfing behind the boat there and everything like they do. They'll get some dolphins and speed up, and then they'll catch a wave and ride the wake and everything. It's pretty cool.
It is very cool. I used to go out in the intercoastal waterway with a guy who had a big sailboat, and he had sort of developed a technique of locking the rudder and letting the sailboat go in circles, and it attracted dolphins. And I remember one time actually baby dolphins, like they weren't like the length of my arm. They were small, but
oh yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. And yeah, these dolphins, it's like I say, if nobody's ever been on a dolphin cruise, make sure you go on one because they're well worth the money.
Well, good. All right, so the vacation's still going, and you got to come back to the real world here in a few days. But is the heat any better? Because it's cooled off a little bit up here.
It's not too bad right now. I got a little breeze going down here. That and being under about 8 to 10 knots ain't too bad either. So keep it going.
Well, good. Well, what do you think, man? I know you haven't had a chance to hear the whole show, but what do you think about all this stuff? And especially, what do you think about Cracker Barrel changing its whole image?
I think Cracker Barrel is punched a hole in the bottom of their boat. You know, they're sinking. I don't want to go on that cruise because I think they're going to hit bottom. And, you know, it took them so long because they used to be just a Southern thing. And then they built their brand up and, you know, started coming everywhere.
Yeah.
And I love the food, love the atmosphere and everything. And now they're going to change all that for whatever reason to something that doesn't work as well.
Yeah. I don't get it at all. I mean, I really feel like they're losing. And I understand that some things will change over time, you know, but you know what? This was unnecessary, and this feels like it was such a cold water, like throwing cold water in people's faces. It was like just a complete sea change, not even looking like them anymore. I think they're losing it.
I just wonder how long it'll be before I see Dylan Mulvaney be the hostess, you know. Welcome to Cracker Barrel.
If Dylan Mulvaney wants to seat you at you'll know. Wow. I don't know. I heard they're changing the menu too, though. That's also bothering me because the menu is supposedly what people go there for. Menu and atmosphere. That's a restaurant right there.
Yeah, that's their gig. I mean, if they lose your gig, it's just another restaurant.
Well,
you know,
I don't know.
Because food is good, but it's not that good. So
now, speaking of food, you did some Lambert's last night, home of the throwed rolls down yonder, didn't you?
Just did it a while ago. Yep.
How was it?
And son-in-law, it was great as always. Son-in-law, he's a good catcher. He does the one-hander, you know, all the way across the room.
Yeah, that I hadn't been down there in years, but anybody who's been down to the Gulf Shores region, seen the billboards, come to Lambert's, home of the throwed rolls. They actually come out and they throw rolls at you, and you better catch them, but they're going to smack you in the head.
And they are very hot. And once you catch it, you got to put it down because it's that hot. They are fresh.
Well, what's on the agenda for you tomorrow? You got some beach time? Y'all going to hang out?
Yep, going to do some beach time tomorrow and some other stuff, and then probably start homeward bound on Saturday.
Well, good for you, man.
And we're probably be up in your neighborhood about Saturday evening.
Yeah, well, good deal. Well, listen, y'all have an amazing time, and we'll talk again soon, all right?
All right, Phil. You can hang in there now that you're going to be every week on CNN here, you know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Beat that brand.
I'm scheduled to go back next Friday tentatively. You know, they don't lock it in until a few days ahead of time, but tentatively I'm scheduled for next week. So we'll see how it goes. But in the meantime, y'all have a great time, brother. We'll see you soon.
All right. Everybody have a good time. Thank you.
All right. See you, buddy. That's just cool. He calls us from his vacation. I love that. And you can hear the echo. You knew he was down. He was down at the bottom of the boat. Stephen from Athens sent us something. There's apparently a live active shooter event going on at Villanova University right now. Hate to hear that. You said there was one at UT Chattanooga?
Yep, UT Chattanooga had one today as well. I haven't seen any reports on if there's any casualties or not, but
look up Villanova real quick, see if you can find anything on it, see what's going on with that. John from Huntsville has the grades in. Says Butters and Lee both get an A+ for the equally fantastic performance. Phil gets an A+ for his nearly perfect performance, which means, once again, today's winner with a perfect A++ is obviously the brilliant JP, because I gave him 20 extra credit points for his spot-on Cracker Barrel comments.
Why, thank you.
Spot on.
Why, thank you.
And there was that whole panoply of sound effects you did all at one time.
I
earlier.
did.
What was that for? I don't remember what it's for.
We were talking about Letitia James not having to pay up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was nothing but goodness. Villanova, what do you see? Anything?
I'm not seeing any reports in terms of if they've captured the shooter or not. I haven't seen anything yet. Just that it's a currently ongoing situation.
Okay. All right. Hey, I did not even get to all my dippers today, which is a great, somebody once said to me, I think it might have been John. John used to grade me. He used to ding me on my grade if I didn't finish the dippers. And I finally pointed out to him, if that happens, it means that the audience and the topic were so intense that we carried on longer and didn't get to all the rest of the content. Thank you. Thank you very much. And in fact, he even came back and said, Phil, you've swayed me. That's a good point. But that was today. So there'll be some content tomorrow that I didn't get to today, so stand by for it, like home fries. We'll do some more home fries and probably add to it a bit. But I got to tell you, there's a story that broke just a few minutes ago. In the last couple of minutes, I'll say something that I think is worth just ending the show on. Trump, right this very minute, is out doing a ride-along with law enforcement in Washington, D.C. First of all, when has that ever happened? When has the president of the United States ever gone out like that and done a ride-along with law enforcement on the streets of our nation's capital? By the way, keep in mind, he also said it's a crime-ridden city, but he's going to go out there and ride the streets anyway. So the breaking news right now is that he's out there, but let me tell you what this means to the men and women in blue. They're out there on the street, and the president of the United States came to see them. The president of the United States came out there to see them and the National Guardsmen who are guarding our nation's capital and make it. The crime rate is plummeting in D.C. right now. It's at a level that it's maybe never been. But I add to that the fact that yesterday, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, and the Vice President, J.D. Vance, went to visit the National Guardsmen and had lunch with them. And what really was galling to me was that protesters showed up to scream at them while they're having lunch with these young guardsmen. Those guardsmen are getting something that they would never have dreamed of. They are sitting there having lunch, I mean, literally at a table with the Vice President of the United States and the Secretary of Defense. And it's y'all, this is a selfie moment. This is a YouTube moment. And the protesters won't even let them have their moment. The protesters are literally shouting at them while they sit there and have a meal with the upper leadership in their chain of command. The left doesn't get it. The left doesn't even get the fact that the streets are safer and that the National Guard guys don't mind being there and that the law enforcement has endorsed this and thanks for it. And if you look at it, you'll also find that Mayor Bowser, the mayor of New York, of Washington, D.C., she's not fighting this. You know why? Because they're glad to have it. So yeah, Trump being out there right now with other members of law enforcement is a huge deal, and I think it's a clear indication that he understands what leadership is. Because I don't recall there being a time when Joe Biden showed up like this. Do you? I don't remember a time that there was anybody that really resonated with an opportunity to hang out with Kamala. I'm telling you right now, it's a different world we got, and I'm glad of it. And there's the music, so the preacher got to quit preaching. So let me just go ahead and tell you, like I do every single time, and I mean it every single time, yes, there are more of us than there are of them. Yes, God is still on his throne. And yes, y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you tomorrow.